Well, hello, welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your dreaded DM, and I am surrounded by the best and brightest that the absolute tabletop community will offer us today. Today, we enter into our second episode of BLEAKSTORM, Blood River Black Sands. Our intrepid heroes head to take refuge in a grotto in a place known as the Razors. The Razors are blood red rivers down deep in gorges that have glass storms raging above them and razor sharp rocks that are built or carved into sheer cliffs around them. Above them, somewhat safe from the blowing sands and powdered glass above them due to the bleak storm, there are bolts of lightning that are striking. Some would say bolts of chaos or pure potential energy transforming some of the native life. They still have to navigate through the razors, either through the long boat that they are on, formed from probably a dragon turtle shell with oars and things, and they've been able to meet someone else who is here in Aldane out there trying to discover their way in the world of Dragongrin. Now, for those who don't know, this is taking place in Dragongrin as detailed in the new release from Absolute Tabletop and the Tabletop Terror guys. The book is called A Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, and so we will be using lots of features from them, from feats, classes, backgrounds, and that sort of thing. So if you hear some terminology or some facts and things like that, check that out. And by the way, some of that information will be located down below in the video for links later on. Just to let you know that there is a free 75-page PDF for creating your character. So if you would like to make a character in this world, and by the way, actually reading through it gives you a lot of information about how the world is set up. You can read through that. In this world of Dragongrin, there is the Dismembered Lord, also known as the Sovereign. And the Dismembered Lord won the war between good and evil. Evil won. And the Dismembered Lord's iron fist holds sway over most of the land, except, some would say, except in Aldane, which is a wasteland of sorts. But there are many riches to be found here. Ancient technologies, pure primordial magic, maybe dead gods, and other dangerous things. So this is somewhat of a lawless land, but very dangerous. Of course, that danger means that it's a choice between falling under the sway of the sovereign or going out into the rest of the world. Right now, we will begin our game with a slight introduction by, we will start with Evan, since you're up there in the corner.
Hi, I'm Evan. I don't have any YouTube channel or anything, but I hope to start playing in more games here on Absolute Tabletop. I'm playing Gavin Enfield. He is a human Ardor druid who kind of grew up in servitude to some Crucian nobles, and now he's been cursed to take these monstrous forms. And so we saw the first of his gross forms last week, and I hope we see more as he survives. And yeah.
All right, Ian.
Yeah, so I'm playing Coral, and when you see her, you will see that she's a black woman, really old, and she has really faded clothes, torn, and the smell that comes from her is like sweat mixed with incense and stuff. She has boots and leggings that are tucked into the boots, and she wears a dress which comes to just above her knee, which was yellow before, but any patterns and stuff is faded. She wears a white shirt, used to be, but obviously torn, and it's opened at the front with a green a waistcoat. All these things have obviously been scavenged along the way. She has a staff, which is maybe 3/4 her size. She's 5 foot, 5'5", and this staff has got like a leather part that is attached to it, so she could like put it on her back, for instance, you know. And the only possessions more that you would see that she has, apart from in between her waistcoat, a few small pouches you possibly could see, is she has a ring which is made from, uh, amongst other things, thallium, and that's what she uses as a spell focus. And I think that is that's pretty much what you'd see when you meet her.
Cool. All right. Let's see. We'll go down here. Kev, please give us a little bit of a re-intro for yourself there, sir.
Yeah, great to be back playing. Enjoyed session 1. I also have no channel, but certainly would encourage you all to check out the Absolute Tabletop creators. Paul down here has a great channel also, as well as your own. I'm playing Bastian Jaeger. He's a human Silverwise ranger. He demonstrated that he is in touch with the Wailing Grey, which is kind of intermediate border between life and death sort of thing, where the spirits and echoes of spirits can still be found. He's also had an accident with the bleak at some point, and has some bleak, and he's able to channel some bleak energy through an extremely scarred left arm. He's average height with dark hair, 2 mismatched coloured eyes, one pale blue, the other one purple. He's a survivalist. He's very practical and pragmatic as well. He has a bow for hunting, an axe for chopping wood, a crowbar for prying open things. He has some pitons for climbing, a hammer for hammering the pitons in, all these type of things that you need for surviving in the wilds. And he was going to act as the guide through Aldane, as he has a few maps to guide the group to wherever they need to go. He's worked a bit with Mr. Vol before, and he's met Gavin recently. Yeah, we've just escaped the city on this dragon turtle shell. Survived an encounter. And he's got some words to have with the little skulk that is now tagging along with us. So, yeah, I'll hand it over to yourself again.
All right. Paul, please give us an intro.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul, I'm also known as the Raven Rolls on YouTube and on Facebook. I have a few live plays. I have a live stream of me making a character in Dragongrin for another campaign. And today I am playing Volzuen Listul, also known as Vol. He is a Daro of the Zarfin culture. The Daro are, I view them as a cross between like a goblin gnome. They are former slaves of the Titans who used to rule a while back. And he is an artificer of the armor subclass, and he wears a full suit of plate armor that seems to be molded to his body, and it has a retractable helmet, and it actually replaces one of his limbs. I think it's his left arm is missing, except now it's a mechanical arm. He is part of a group called the Arcanaut Collective. It's a group within the Zarfin culture. They specialize in body modification. using cutting edge and experimental technology. The first thing he's done is replaced his eyes with archons, which are, I guess, like a magic item in this setting, and they function just like normal eyes, with the gold with a little black dot, so you know which way he's looking. Well, not so much a black dot, but like a little inscription, so you can sort of see which way he's looking there. He has an orb hanging, like it's embedded in his earlobe. There's an orb, and there's probably some other stuff just here and there, either subdermal or just stuff actually visible, embedded in his skin, piercings and stuff. And he just loves tinkering with things. So you probably see him taking things apart and putting them back together almost without even paying attention. Sometimes in his hands, he's just tinkering with them and stuff. So he's not doesn't pay attention sometimes to what he's doing. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Problem. Now, you guys, although Bastion is the individual that has seems to be the most skilled, he's the kind of your guide, your explorer. It doesn't take him much convincing to let you guys know that taking a rest in this grotto is not a permanent thing. As a matter of fact, with storms raging above you and the winds and the storm and lightning and all that kind of business, the rock around your little enclave, your little resting place, is quite unstable. And you from the rolling thunder and lightning bolts and things, you pretty much realize that it's not going to take too many times for a bolt of lightning to strike the earth to have the place collapse around you. Now, so you are in a place of safety, but you're going to have to leave here pretty soon. According to the maps, and unfortunately, the maps are, because the landscape has changed so much, they're pretty generalized, but you think maybe a day, maybe 2 days traveling through the narrow gorge, you can get to some place, to get out of the gorge and get to someplace safe. Although you might want to decide to actually climb up the sheer cliffs, but with the storms raging and having basically powdered glass blowing through the air, it's not, it wouldn't be the safest mode of travel. So between the two, you're thinking, yeah, we're just going to have to go downstream even further and find where the land and the water system maybe starts to converge a little bit together, and maybe the bleak storm will subside quite a bit. I'm just going to share the thumbnail here. This episode is called Blood River Black Sands, and it is the second one. They won't be numbered, but they will be alphabetized. So the first letter of each episode will be part of the alphabet. So anyone can jump in and take and watch the episodes when they come about. All right, so outside, you can the sun, as little as it is, has begun to rise, so that instead of it being black and dark outside, the sun has risen, and now it's just basically a red haze. That's where the sun is trying to pierce through the upper reaches of the bleak storm. As I said before, the sand and dirt, it's not really sand, it's more of granular powdered glass. And as the stone that isn't pounded by the sheer winds, as you come down the sides of the gorge, as you see the stony striations, it's pretty much razor sharp, as a matter of fact, and very difficult to climb. As a matter of fact, you guys, the day previous, had a lot of this rock falling into your boat, and it was quite difficult to pick up with your hands without it piercing through even thick amounts of leather or oiled cloth gauntlets or things of that nature. But the other hazard that Bastion is quite willing to tell you about are the mutant creatures that the chaos is mutating and enlarging and sending on a blind bloodlust in the upper reaches of the canyons as you navigate them. So you guys, you can decide when and if you're going to leave. By the way, all of you have been able to get a long rest at this moment. So you've been able to get your bearings, bind any wounds, check out your equipment and things of that nature, but you're not sure if that's going to be possible later on. Oh, and of course you've befriended someone else who happens to be in the same impasse as the rest of you guys.
Yeah, do you think you could describe the grotto a little bit for us? What does it look like on the inside?
The grotto is very much a miniaturized version of the hanging city you came before. So the dragon turtle boat is moored up against a beachy embankment, and above you there's you cannot see any sky. So above you is just stone. So it's more like a flooded entryway to a flooded cavern, more so than an open space. So you are protected from the winds and things, but outside, beyond the flooded cave, you can see debris falling into the water. And you also guess that the reason why the maps aren't quite accurate is that as rock falls, more rock starts to pile up and jut up into the air. So the waterways aren't really quite mappable because of the topography starts to change and shift over time.
Do we have a general idea of how long these bleak storms last for?
In general, maybe 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days.
It's not a case of we can probably wait this one out. Again, I imagine the water's roiling, still swelling up as well, and potentially threatening to fill our little grotto at times.
Absolutely.
I think the first thing I would do once we get out of the boat, sorry, Ian, is probably Ian's character would see me grab Calphus by the throat and probably hold him against the wall. And I would say, "You little rat. Now we've got the heat all over us. Now we've got like people looking for us. We do our best to keep our heads down in this land, and you bring the eye towards us."
Listen, sir, if it wasn't for me, you would not have a valuable item. Yes, and to leave the sovereign's eye, the marrow will not be watching us from here. Yes, that is because of me. Yes, he clearly is not working, but he's.
Do I look like a man that cares much about wealth? I just want to keep my head down and survive through all this land. But it doesn't help when rats like you come along and draw the attention and the ire of those that may send people after us. And I'll just kind of like push him away and turn and start examining the grotto as you've described it, seeing our new, seeing the already residents here.
Okay. You do notice that this grotto has previously been used maybe multiple times by travelers or nomads or something of that nature. There's some old and broken pottery and utensils. The size of the utensils is about twice the size and girth of normal humanoids. So like a salad bowl the size of a stock pot or something, and a spoon the length of someone's thigh. There are, how someone would move stones around like a place to light a fire, and the stones and such require you to are about the height of your head, so you would have to like jump up and grab the top of the stone to get to the top of it, and that's just in one corner. But you can see that other locations in this little grotto have been used multiple times, maybe almost as a stopping point, or for like a nomadic culture, and maybe even people of various strange heritages.
I think Coral, whose her knuckles have sort of been bleeding from like trying to empty this turtle boat with the debris and stuff, and she's sort of like just like looking at her hands at the moment. But then she looks up and she says, "Val," and she puts her cane in your direction. Do you think we can stay here or should we move on?
Well, your question is punctuated by the fall of like a huge blackened boulder with sharp spikes on it falling outside of the grotto, and it just lands into the water with a couple of its razor sharp extruded pieces falling outside, more to falling glass from an office building rather than solid rock in many ways. And it's blackened and blasted, letting you know that you guys might be trapped in here, or it may collapse on top of you if you don't get moving.
She stumbles back as that like comes down and stumbles closer to Bastian and says, "We have to decide which way, what we will do."
Doesn't look like we're gonna have much choice. If we don't leave now, we might not leave for centuries, maybe. So it seems to work around here. So yeah, we'll pack up our things and load the boat again, and we'll brave the storm outside. It's either we use the boat or we climb. Looking around at yourself and at Vol, I don't fancy us climbing. We'll load the boat up and we'll leave as soon as we've had our breakfast and broke our fast.
Probably seemed since you got here and it relatively safer, I guess, than on the water. Vol's been tinkering with that construct hand that Kalphus had given him, and what I've been able to determine its properties or how it works.
Yeah, give me a roll. I can guess that you'd probably have some kind of expertise in it, but give me a roll nonetheless. You'll get more information based on.
Yes, I have advantage on Arcana or History checks related to Titan lore or technology.
Okay.
And in either case, it'll be same modifier. 25.
First of all, you do know that despite Kalphus being a sniveling little a bit of a darrow, that the arm is quite valuable to the right individuals. To your average citizen, they wouldn't. I mean, sure, it looks strange, but its value isn't really quite apparent. But you are aware that if it's true that this came from a particular location, that there may even be other elements, other mechanisms that might be related to it. And despite the fact that it's on outwardly, it seems like it's been rusted and ground to something inoperable, you think you can get it working again. Cleaning it, oiling it, that sort of thing. That maybe it's not as old. No, let's take this back. It's quite ancient, but not old enough to be useless. That this might have been in use within the last 100 years or so, if it wasn't for the environment.
Do I have the time and the resources to, I guess it's repair it a little bit? Because I read a little bit of how this works, so I know I can repair it at least one step.
Yeah, I'd say that, especially since you guys were able to get like a long rest in. Yeah, absolutely. But your dagger, while not, let's just say that the warnings are subtle but increasing. So no immediate danger, but the danger is growing.
So I'm going to hold off on that then.
All right.
And all I say to Bastion is say, find somewhere safe so where I can work on this a little more. But we should get going.
And then,
Go on, Gav.
Gavin would be kind of sitting around whatever makeshift fire we had made at this point. And you would remember when he changed into his monstrous form last time, it left this like black film all over his body. And so you can see he has this maybe like bone-handled scrub brush, and he's just like, he's been scrubbing away all morning, like trying to get all this like ichor off of him that's left over from his transformation. And he looks over at Coral and he says, well, we don't want to take her anywhere she doesn't want to go. We're going for a nearby Grin. I don't know if you'd be at all interested in doing something like that. And he would kind of stutter through an inquisition into where you're going and maybe what you want to do.
Absolutely. And Coral, who would just been for the last maybe like 5 minutes, like just going through like a spell book, beginning like a ritual, she sort of stops it and she looks up to you and she says,
of course, in these times, it is better for us to travel in groups, I believe, if it's okay with you.
and she looks at each of you in the eye, trying to get some sort of like reading confirmation that it's okay for her to travel further with you.
Absolutely, it would be fantastic. There's a lot of room in the turtle shell.
And she looks towards the Darrow and says,
I heard him talking earlier about the red sails, but how can they come for the 10th now? Don't they normally come by land?
The Weasley little Calphus, he's like, yes, but the red sail was literally on boats traveling from the sea, and to collect the 10th, this land is so desolate that only those who give the 10th are the ones who want to be given favor by the sovereign. This land is bleak and dangerous, but it was I that was able to survive. Yes, it was. And he looks over at Val. It's like, well, yes. Anyway, some of us like to leave for vacation during the 10th and maybe come back later when we are more able to honor the sovereign. Yes, like yourselves. Having an excuse to leave. You do know that there are many people, just as many people who come here for wealth and maybe to find their way in the world. There's also many people who want to leave because it is too chaotic and too dangerous. So that's why they bother to even pay the 10th in this desolate land. Roving bands of the Marrow are, I wouldn't say rare, but many times they're trying to survive themselves more than reinforce the law. So the ones who are up here, the few that are pretty hardened warriors, not quite fitting the regimented, almost Romanesque legionnaires. These guys are more dirty and gritty and surviving on their own. And so there is a little bit of a there's a little bit of infighting amongst themselves, although as serving the sovereign, they serve one ruler, but amongst their own hierarchy, there's like the Oldanians have a little bit of an attitude. They got a chip on their shoulder. because they feel like, hey, we've been through the crap, and we're going to come out on the other side tougher than you guys ever were. And so there is a little bit of that.
Coral would turn to Bastian, towards the ranger, and she just says,
do we have perhaps 10 minutes here before we move on, or no time at all?
Is like loading stuff onto the turtle shell, kind of looking around and seeing another piece fall. Aye, maybe not much more than 10 minutes. So if you got something to do, let's do it now, Madam Coral.
absolutely. And she tries to get herself into the safest place possible as she reopens her book and goes through like the incantations for a ritual to create mage armor. As this armor just goes over her whole body, and the helmet comes down and just like dissipates, and then she just like hurries over to the turtle boat and just climbs in.
What Vo was going to say was, before she started the ritual, saying, "If you don't slow us down, old woman, you can join us. Just we have places to go and no time to get there."
It's okay. I won't get in the way. I assure you. I assure you.
And after she does that, he does some. He's trying to show off a little. His helmet pops on. Gloves pop onto his hands, and he looks like he didn't look like he was wearing anything any armor, because he's just wearing regular clothing. But then all of a sudden, a helmet just goes all the way up over his head, and then the same thing over his hands as well.
And as you kind of accost the old woman, tell her to keep up, Gavin would walk over and kind of hit you with the back of his hand and on like the stomach, and then lean over and he'd be like, "That's rude. Don't do that. What are you doing?" Where else is she gonna go? And then Gavin would jump and get into the boat.
I imagine me and the Festia jump on the oars, and he'll say to Vol, "Get up front and steer us through again and tell us which way to go. Gav, maybe you can jump on the pole and fend us off the rocks."
I can certainly try.
Miss Coral, Madam Coral, I don't know if you've got any other abilities to scoop out any of this fallen glass. Mr. Vol, I don't know if you can take that helmet off. That might help to scoop stuff out rather than her, again, looking at her hands rather than her using her hands.
I will do my best. I will do my best.
And she continues with her hands to just over the top.
No, not with your hands. And I'm looking around, and I've got like a drinking cup, a bowl of some sort, and I'm like, "I'll here, at least use this." And I'm trying to find some sort of alternative.
And as you pass it to her, you see her, she sort of stops for a second. She looks at you, but she tries to get the attention also of Gavin.
And she says, "Mind you, I am old. Do not do not fawn over me. These are not times for that. I will hold my weight,"
she says, and she takes this from you, goes away and begins to empty more this rubble.
Do we remember what check Vol had to make last time he was guiding our boat?
It was a
intelligence check to dodge the rocks or something.
It was to navigate so that you wouldn't be in the path by looking at the how precarious the rock was, so that it wouldn't fall in on top of you. So it was a combination of intelligence and survival, I believe.
So yeah, I wasn't doing the survival part. I think that was Bastian was helping me.
Yep.
I mean, if Gavin's the one that's fending off using a pole, then maybe Gavin can do the survival stuff and Vol, you can do the intelligence stuff, and then me and Steve's character will be doing the athletic stuff. And
Is Steve's character still with us?
I'm guessing we haven't left him behind. I will just say that he's rowing.
Yeah. No, he's the walker, and probably just is deciding to try to make his way as dangerous
climb
as
up the cliff.
Yep. Yeah. He's the one that did the the 3-point landing, falling 100+ feet into the boat. So I think he'll be all right.
So he left. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. He's going.
I guess Kalfus is going to help you then. And also, you see, he holds out his hand, and out of the fingertips of his right hand, little tools start coming out. If anyone's familiar, they look like thieves' tools coming out of the fingertips, and he holds those out, and he holds it out, and there's electricity popping out all around the glove, and just things are moving out of the way. Whatever he points at, little rocks and stuff and stones. It's essentially mage hand if it's needed.
Ooh. All right. So as you guys clean out the boat, watch yourselves to not get cut on the glass, and ensure that none of the hide of the boat has been punctured or anything. You time it so that you look up into the sky, making sure there's not going to be any rock falling on you, and you make your way down the river. Now, Bastion, your maps, while not necessarily accurate, just because of how the landscape changes, you do know that there is a point where the rivers have been separating and then coming back together and that sort of thing. So there's a major waterfall, which means would be at the upper portion of it, where there's a major waterfall during how the rivers split and turn and such that you want to absolutely avoid. The reason it's on the map is because when you take the other fork in the road, that there have been people who've been panning for Thanium, and there's a little bit of like a stepped mining community where they've been like strip mining away at the striations. And so this was a stopping point where a lot of people who are trying to make make their fortune. In the past, they used to mine Thanium and take it up and down the river for like weapons and armor and that kind of thing, measured in tonnage. Today, Thanium is measured in like ounces, and still quite valuable. Very, very valuable when it's minted, but it's almost, you could almost equate Thanium to like coinage up here, that if you have a pouch of it, you could buy and sell your, earn enough wages for a month, maybe even 6 months time, by handing it over to the sovereign, who is trying, of course, to buy up more so than gold or even livestock or anything. Anyone that can find a vein of Thanium is in good graces with the sovereign, which means pretty terrible things for everyone else when the sovereign takes their legion of marrows and go try to protect that Thanium location. But on your maps, no, there's no evidence that the sovereign is here, which means that it's probably dry, but people still want to come to these empty mines just on the off chance that maybe somebody missed something. So you get into the boat, and like I said before, there are these like sheer cliff sides. Well, sheer wouldn't be, they're rough, but they're made out of that sharpened glass as well, like I said before. And there are these pillars or peaks that are balanced precariously, far taller than they are wide, as the boat navigates around all of these, all of the black and red and brown pillars that stand before you. Not, of course, you guys have the time and energy to like navigate your way from bumping into the walls or using your long poles and maybe a pole arm here or there, ensuring that you heading towards a place of danger, and you can hear in the distance to what would essentially be your left ahead of you as it breaks into a Y pattern. You can hear a very distant roar as if water is falling. And to the right, you see that the landscape is starting to level out just a bit, so that as you're navigating through this weird red landscape, that you do realize that there might be some safety to the right. And by the way, any warning of Val, your warning system is not going off. So just letting you know that. All right. Which are you guys deciding to go in a particular direction?
Coral's seeing Bastian occasionally taking these looks at his map. She sort of comes up beside him as she's sort of just like starts to bandage her hands. She's done enough at the moment, and she puts her hand on your shoulder and she says,
So, which way? To the left or to the right?
I'll kind of show you the map and say, well, there's usually a waterfall this direction to our left. So we're going to head, obviously, the opposite direction. And he kind of cocks his head up, and that's where he can kind of just hear the distant roar. And he'll say, yeah, it sounds mighty violent as you'd expect. So we'll head the other way. I don't know if you know anything of this region or might know what's ahead for us. Anything would be helpful.
The sniveling Calphus kind of comes up to you, and I pulls at your elbow a little bit. He's like, it would be best for us to travel to the waterfall. Yes. The other direction is unwarranted for those of us of a more civilized nature. Yes. Yes. And he backs off.
Bastian rubs his eyes. Have you upset somebody else as well now?
I wouldn't say upset. They might have ill-gotten gains that were returned to their proper owner, and I might have been the requisite individual that made such a thing happen. But offend? No. All friends, yes. Just no need to have small talk with them. Let's go towards the waterfall.
Just shouting back over his shoulder as he's rowing. Vol, who have you brought with us?
I made a decision and I stand by it.
Vol's my master, yes, he will teach me good things, yes, Vol. I am here to serve you, yes, I am a needed individual for your service in advancing in the Argonaut faction, I am sure. Yes, you will. Good word?
You don't disappoint me.
But of course, and he bows down to bumping his head on the bottom of the boat.
Gavin would go over to Calphus and say, would they recognize this boat, or could we just hide you in the boat until we pass?
Yeah, yes. I love the feel of canvas. Yes, and I would love to be in a sack. It is very warm and comforting for me. Yes. I would love to.
And then Gavin would go look for something to cover him up. And hide him as we pass.
So he's just like, oh no, they're taking me into the meat grinder now with these guys. But he's very, very willing to want to hide and not be, let's say, traded off or something. So you can hear as you make your way towards the right, and it starts to while this image seems quite flat, of course I had to find something. There are like cliff sides and faces, but you are getting to a location where if you were able to see it from above, it almost does seem like it's like blood running through over rough ground and such as your boat makes your way. And as you're getting closer to this region, you do see that instead of the very sharp cliff sides, that the river is starting to come to areas where it's starting to level out, where you could literally put the boat against a flat area and get out. You notice that there are discarded broken tools, there's clothing, and a boot here and there, and that this area has been pined for minerals for quite some time. And you see that there are, instead of the sheer striations, you see that there are stepped levels, much like how strip mining, where almost as if for a giant, I would say, they could walk up the steps before for a humanoid, a medium-sized humanoid, you would have to reach up or jump up to grab another ledge, to climb up another step, to jump back up again. So each would be, say, 6 to 8 feet tall per step. And they're angled too, to allow wagons maybe, or mounts to walk up and down the mining area on both sides. Over time, wind and maybe a little bit of moisture here and there has run down the side, so it's quite abandoned, and you don't see any of civilization around here at all. There are no people mining in the water. There are no people using pickaxes to dig at the ground, but you do see a lot of discarded and broken materials, a broken wagon wheel, the carcass of a dead lizard that was supposed to pull a cart or something of that nature. But Calf is poking his eye up, is like looking around, and you do see some more like pottery that's maybe twice the size of what you would normally be able to functionally use, scattered here and there on both sides of the river. And ahead of you, you do hear splashing as you're coming towards a bend. Val, your warning system is starting to like boop, 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 and starts to alert you as it starts like vibrating against your thigh or something like that, as you begin to as the boat lazily starts coming around the bend. Above you, there's still wind and dark roiling clouds of like black with purple and red lightning above you, but you haven't heard a lightning strike, or at least a lightning strike nearby, in quite some time. But you gather, if you start to climb up the angled sides, that you would be in direct confrontation with like the dust and the smog and winds that are blowing.
As soon as we heard this sound even from the distance, you know, it's Coral just like leans against the side of this the boat, and she says, and this portal, this small portal tearing, kind of almost opens, and out from it comes this celestial owl flies up, and her eyes almost they start to kind of like milk over as she begins to see through the eyes of her familiar, and she doesn't want to go too high where but she wants to go like forward and just to see if there's what possible could be done. That's what she's gonna do.
Okay, you as the owl flies up, and of course there's plenty of aerial space for the owl to fly without getting caught up in the vortex of winds that are happening above the valley. you round the corner and you hear these voices. And before you even hear the voices, before you even hear the voices, you hear a splash and angry tones. And let's see here. Yeah, angry tones. And the owl sees a huge monstrosity punch another giant right in the face. Poof, and he falls down into the red water and falls on his back. And you see they're fighting, and the one on the ground reaches into the mud and grabs something and picks up a blackened spike. Its hand now bloody after picking up what looks like a big shard of glass, and gets ready to stand up. And the two giants, one in this image with like a darkened green skin and a big beard, has one eye, and he's like, "Arr!" And the other one next to them, with a now a club in his hand, is looking at the others, and you hear a voice say, "Stop fighting!" And you see it's like a clan of these weird, almost eclectic collection of these giants, mutated by the landscape, maybe even being mutated by the very drinking the very bloody waters of this land in Uldane. While in more civilized lands, they might have been considered various giant types of sorts. You see here that they just seem to be collected together, maybe surviving in the land here. And around them, you can see that there are bits of dirt and piles of dirt. It seems that they've gathered. There's shards of glass, and you see there's like broken wagon pieces and whatnot. And it seems that they're standing in the river because of their height, maybe waist deep for them, blocking your passage to go further. They don't see you yet, and they do not see the owl as of yet, but you could either decide to go back the way of the waterfall or try to figure out some kind of way to get past them, either sneaking or having an actual confrontation with this eclectic band of survivors.
Are we flying down a river, or are we rowing down a river?
Without rowing, you'll just drift.
Okay.
So you would have to actively stop yourselves. You're not traveling so fast that you can't stop yourself at all. But you would have to go back upriver. Difficult, but not impossible, to go back towards the waterfall if you wish.
Everything that Coral saw at the time that she sees it, it's almost like as a routine. She's saying exactly the descriptions loud of what she's seeing, even if we see it at the same time. But that's what she does. The whole description she says, and then she says, as the owl comes towards her, and then just another tear in the air as it just like goes into a portal, and her eyes go from milk back, and she turns to Bastian and the rest and Gavin, and she says,
perhaps we should have gone another way.
Bastian, as you're describing it, is just saying nope, not having anything to do with those, and he's beginning to row and get the boat turned around, facing back the other way, and he's going to row against the current, or go with the current, whichever way it's flowing. And I think he's going to row a little bit and try and find one of those flat grounds, maybe where we saw the husk of the dead lizard. Get back to that point, just have a look and just say to the group, well, if it was one of them, maybe we could get past quick, but by the sounds of it, multiple blocking the route. I don't fancy our chances.
she taking a stick in the ground, she sort of like just does an even rougher map of what she had seen on your map actually, and with the forking of the roads, and then she points over to the left where the with a stick on the ground where the waterfall would be, and she says,
but how will we deal with the waterfall?
and I'm sure, and she looks over Gavin's shoulder actually in the direction of where the giants way would be,
And she says, and we may not have so much time to decide.
Well, and then Gavin would speak up, and maybe they don't want anything from us. Maybe they'll just kind of let us go past. Do we have anything they'd want? And he would kind of like look around the boat. Maybe we can bribe our way through.
Why would they take one item when they can have all of them?
Items.
Now,
Flesh they will eat, I'm sure.
do these
around here.
do these, we'll say, giants have any connection to the Titans?
During their reign, they were probably used as basically labor to assemble to build the Titan-sized machines or something. But over time, they are a pale shadow to what ancient texts would describe as the Titans. Essentially, these beings are not true biological Titans any longer. They may be they're like like the broken biology of the people that used to live and serve the Titans, with the Darrow being the brains and these titanic creatures being the brawn to build the machines that would become the Titan culture.
I see. Yeah, best if we leave. I don't know if they would listen to me. How far gone their minds are, and not very good at bluffing.
Well,
I have to say the truth, she says, and she seems a little sheepish, as she looks like up at you, and your eye maybe turns in a direction,
And says, but if you go that way, perhaps I will have to part ways with you, I think. I cannot see how we can get past them.
The only thing I've got on my sleeve is I can shroud us in the wailing grey somewhat, muffle our oars, cover us in some mist from the grey itself. That may help us sneak past a little bit, but we're still going to need a distraction of some sort if that's the case. I just don't know if we've got that in us to be able to cause enough of a distraction for us to slink on by.
While you guys are having this discussion, you do hear Val. You hear you feel a ping, and you hear two voices like arguing with each other. More like having a heated discussion with each other from the direction around the bend of where the giants are at. And one of them is like, stupid, like, we should stay. And the other one's like, we'll discuss this with ourselves. We no longer need them any longer. And you hear splashing of sorts. And you hear the splashing, when you look back, there is like a mutated, two-headed, Etin-like creature walking waist deep, knee deep in the bloody waters, grabbing a rock here, tossing it, grabbing a broken wagon wheel, tossing it again, walking towards your direction. Quite apparently not paying attention that you're even there, just going like, why are we searching this place again? There's nothing here. And he's like, maybe we might find something. Like, we don't need to listen to them. Just because he's smarter, he thinks his words makes him the leader, and starts walking along. And of course, they start looking at each other. It's like, we need to agree on what we're going to do. And he starts, and again, walking towards you.
How far away are these things? Sorry. How far away are these things? Well, is this setting? Sorry.
It is. Wow, it's quite a distance away. I would say even as long as 300 feet, even a good 10 rounds to get to you. A large sporting field, football.
I'm just thinking, can we get in the boat and row away without him seeing us?
Absolutely. Is that far away?
Okay. Yeah, and I motion like this, like turn around and point the other way, and I'll put my hand on Bastion and give him guidance. Or well, he's not actually doing the roll technically, so I'll give it to myself if I'm trying to find a way out of here. But whatever.
Are there 2 oars on this, or is it only 1 oar?
Oh, there's like 4 of them. They're in the cavities where the limbs would be.
You can see that Carol is just like holding one of these and just trying to, just like clumsily, it's not working so well, but she's just like splashing around trying to row this in the opposite direction for sure.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask for a bit of a complicated die roll here. So you guys need to make a collective stealth check. So majority wins.
What I'm going to do then, as we are starting to move off and try and row away, I'm going to cast Passive Out Trace, which is going to have a +10 to all stealth checks. And what I imagine it's I think everyone within 30 feet of me kind of fades almost into the wailing grey as it kind of seeps around us, so almost like a mist starts to form around us, and we're a little bit blurry on the outside of the image. We're not see-through, and then our oars are making a really dull splash. So rather than a hard splash, it's just more like, when you're underwater and it's like that, more sort of, everything sounds a bit like that now. So yes, we're not like perfectly like hidden, but it's going to help us. So I'm going to cast Passive Out Trace.
Perfect. Even with the +10, still make the roll just in case. But I don't think
11.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah.
Are we using stealth? Sorry.
Yes. Yes,
stealth
you are.
roll.
Yes. Combination of you guys being quiet and following instructions and not making any splashing noises, and of course with your enchantment over the entire party.
Yeah, so it's a static +10 to everyone's stealth roll.
Wait, Evan, that's with the +10. You got a 4. I'm in plate armor. Yeah, I don't have a penalty because of my subclass. I'm in plate armor and I got a 38. It's just funny.
Wow. Okay, and the other 2 members of your party?
23.
Yeah. Okay.
I got a 34. I got a 17 on the die. So.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. So the Etten starts casually walking towards you guys, although the panic in your eyes is like, he sees us, he's gonna call his friends and stuff, but makes no attempt, and one of the heads is like, ooh, and like looks at the ground and picks up some trinket, and the other head is like, come on, there's got to be some other goodies around here, and starts walking towards the dead carcass of the animal, and has no reaction to you guys going back upstream, pushing your way upstream. As a matter of fact, even the the wake of the boat, as little as it is like almost non-existent as you start pushing your way, leaving the large giant behind as they continue their conversation with each other's heads, arguing about the fact that they're arguing about other stupid dummies. As you the entire party, the turtle shell starts rounding the bend to go towards the waterfall. You can hear that the muffled tones of the giants that you left behind, and now as their voices start to lower, you hear the sound of the water spilling over some kind of where the waterfall would normally terminate and fall over the edge. Now, you're on your maps, you do know that it is not a straight path over waterfall, that there are there's a delta and some other kind of tributaries. So just to be aware. Are you?
Yeah. So one of the things
Good.
that Carol will definitely do again is she moves closer to where Bastion is, and she again holding the side. She goes through the same ritual as her bird goes, like 100 feet ahead of the group, just to see and whatever she sees, she says out loud at the same time.
As the bird flies ahead and you start sweeping over the region, before you hear the sound of the waterfall, you notice that there are a number of jagged rocks splitting and causing the water to cascade. Unlike what you would think of as one single waterfall, it's more like rapids caused by the jutting of rocks, so that it is not one waterfall, but a series of shallow waterfalls falling over like a stepped waterfall of sorts, as the wide river is now having these narrow passages with razor sharp rocks and these tall pillars or maces or abutments in separating the water. And because there's so many of them, they're causing the water to start to become far more rapid, just like small white caps on top of the blood red water that's falling, so that part of you is like, oh, this isn't too bad. It's not a 500-foot waterfall. And then on the other hand, it's like, ooh, are we going to be able to navigate that? We might have to get out the boat and navigate around it.
Exactly. That's one of the two things that is going through her mind as she's looking through the celestial bird. Is she's thinking, is it better for us to take this boat, turtle shell, off to the land? I mean, can we actually get off into the land and travel that way, or is there even a possibility that we can make it along these rapids?
There is a possibility of leaving the boat. Yes, there is a possibility. Travel on land is going to be quite treacherous because you'll be essentially walking on what would be considered like angled rock. There's no beaches, but you could be able to do this by, holding onto the rock in the rough obsidian and such that's on the sides, or you could navigate the boat down. You might want to split the difference, and you could use ropes or some other kind of guides or something, possibly as well, to guide the boat down, so that maybe there's no one in it, or maybe only a few of you in it to let it descend through the rapids. Although you do realize that the rapids are powerful enough that if it flips the boat over, it probably could crush it. It could shatter it. And also navigating the speed where you're located now, the water's not moving that fast, but the speeds could have you crash into these like blackened pillars that are jutting up into the river which is what exactly is causing the rapids in the first place.
Would we be able to potentially carry, like, put the turtle shell on land and then carry it past the rapids and then put
Yes.
it on the other side?
Yeah, it's possible. The shell, although quite big, is actually not very heavy, as in a ratio of its size compared to its size. Yeah, four of you could probably haul it or push it, pull it. Maybe with some guidelines, maybe if you want to do that, or you could just stay in it and hope for the best, maybe using poles and such and ride it down. Who knows?
We could, if we tied ropes to it, let it stay on the water itself, and then we'll walk along the sides or climb over the rocks down the sides, holding onto the ropes as the boat is still floating. And so we can kind of steer it past any rocks and stuff while it's still afloat. And we could do it potentially that way as well.
Absolutely. Just let me know what you guys want to decide on how you want to do this. Like who's going to be in the boat, who's going to be outside of the boat. That might be important, maybe.
I think that's a great idea. We should put it on the water, and then I can transform into a giant spider and potentially do the hauling power, and we can like tie the ropes to me, and I can kind of push it forward as someone stays in the boat maybe. And I don't know how it would work, but it's just an idea.
So if you do that, then I will be on land with you, he says.
What sort of difficulty is it to traverse the land versus what sort of difficulty? So I'm thinking, is it a case of we're going to be climbing over stuff on land, so it's going to need some athletic movements, for instance, versus if you're in the boat, then it's going to take some intelligent navigating. Like, can we kind of work those sort of things out, and then we can decide if someone stays in the boat or if someone doesn't stay in the boat? And
you volunteering me to stay in the boat?
I mean, if it's more of a survivalist instinct sort of thing, then Bastian will stay in the boat, but he's also quite athletic. So if it needs someone that's quite athletic and potentially strong enough to guide the boat with the spider, then maybe he's better on the land. Again, it's about kind of, can we work out what skills we're probably gonna need in which positions before we decide who does what? Is that a thing we could potentially do? Not trying to metagame sort of thing, but it's just okay. If we're gonna navigate this, we're gonna need to probably be good at doing this, and whatever else.
I would say it would default to someone intelligent, maybe being inside of the boat to decide where it's going to go and make sure, with the angles and such, rather than this being more instinctual, especially putting, applying enough pressure on the ropes, maybe a lot of like leveraging and angling and such. And so someone's pretty strong, athletic on the outside of the boat would probably be far more effective than inside.
So it sounds like Ball's in the boat.
I guess I'm in the boat. I am the least athletic out of the group.
So we both can, she suggests. She says, and you can see that on her face, that is the last thing that she wants to do. But she says,
I am more than willing to be in the boat, she says.
Gavin would just say, the spider is actually very easy to ride, and it's very sticky, so it'll be fine. So if you just want to hop on the back of my spider, we could get you through here. No problem. Gavin's very deferential to this older woman and would invite her to do that.
and for the first time, Gavin, you see that she gives you like a stern look. and she says, I said, don't pour over me, she says, and she sort of like taps you on the side, not hard, but just on the side of your leg, as she says, I'll be staying in this boat. She says, I'll do my share.
So I'm thinking Bastion's going to have a guide rope so we'll have a guide rope at the front of the turtle shell, and that's the one that's kind of going to do the steering. And then to make sure it's anchored and doesn't drift off, we'll use Gavin's really strong spider. Again, so Gavin, as the spider, is going to be the anchor point at the back. I'm going to be the guide at the front. And then the lighter characters, individuals in our party can be in the boat kind of using the prods to, like, pole arms and the oars to kind of push them off and fend them off.
The two smarter but not necessarily healthier the two are going to be in the boat by themselves. Okay.
I mean, you can tie another rope from me to each individual, or, like, in case you do fall out, then you're still tied to us. I mean, you could do that as well.
It is Sagada. She nods as she's looking around the boat, and then she like takes the oar and just like, you can see her just like splashing a little bit in the water, even though we're still just like drifting down towards this thing, just already sort of practicing like how she's going to push away from some of the rocks and stuff.
Yeah. Again, Gavin as a spider can control the speed. Hopefully, we are going down, and that's why he's going to be at the back, kind of holding it back, and I'm going to steer it from the front. And yeah,
Absolutely.
and then we've got Calphus
let's
as
do
well
it.
doing something.
I'm not going to ask you guys to make a roll for this. You're planning it out. You're working together to manage to get this boat, this upside down turtle shell, down, through rapids and over a rock, and making sure you're like, you're stopping, like, oh, it looks like it's gonna crack. No, okay, least tension. All right, but even as the as a giant spider, sort of being able to get, a really good foothold, or multi-footed hold on the rock, and even being able to brace yourself between like two outcrops sitting above the river as the boat gets pulled down, and you're able to finally wedge it and move it along to get it down to, I guess you would call it, like the lower levels of the rapids, where at least there aren't any dangers, and of course keeping a lookout for maybe unseen dangers that are underneath the water. But as you do this, all of you are, to one sense or another, attuned to magic in itself. And in this region, it is very chaotic, potent, even as you're able to tap into the weave. And all of you, as you're like, okay, we got that done, you realize, you give each other a look, because something somewhere purposefully is drawing upon the chaotic energy of the bleak. As a matter of fact, it's like, it's almost as if someone, each of you has heard, well, maybe it's not a sound, maybe you smell it. No, it's like a sixth sense, and you look up in the sky and you see the bleak starts to swirl, and it starts to turn, and it looks like it's turning into a vortex of sorts. Electrical power flowing through it, and it forms overhead, and you look up and you're like, there's a sentient hand here. And a bolt of lightning streaks out, and your Val, your sense of danger goes off, not as strong as you thought, and a bolt of lightning strikes somewhere in the distance, and you hear like a as maybe one of those giants got hit by a bolt of lightning. And you hear like screaming from a far distance, and boom, and a bolt of lightning strikes down. And then all of a sudden you see the energy starts to form again, and a bolt of lightning strikes at the ground. And Bastion, your eye starts to, like, you can actually see the actual glow on your body as your eye starts to form again, and bolts of lightning start striking the region around you. And you realize that, like, not only is the storm dangerous, that there is a sentient hand controlling it. Bolts of lightning strike down, and all of those critters that were starting to try to take cover, you look up in the sky, and something with like strange wings and an extra head starts to form from its neck, and what looks like a small little ground weasel starts to grow and form its body as the skin starts to split and the ooze starts coming out of it. And you guys see forming around you. Oops, let's see if I can get the image here. There we go. And lastly, sorry, as we share this, you see that there are these chimeric creatures spawning from the very ground from the very cliff sides and such. Not just one, but you see them forming as almost as if a family of meerkats is trying to take cover, and a bolt of lightning strikes at them, and they're starting to like scramble out of their little havens, or like little small field mice or rabbits trying to come out, and each of them are starting to shift and change, and their bodies start to move. You guys make an Arcana check for me, please.
15.
20.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
6.
As the storm's swirling about you and above you, a power that seems to be where nothing seems to have control over it, as it swarms around you, you see as yet another bolt of lightning gets to form, that someone somewhere in the distance on the horizon, the energy scene, but not the force that's causing it, starts to activate, drawing upon the very storm around you, causing the bolts of lightning to strike down onto the ground yet again. There's like a sentient hand involved in it, and you don't know who it is or what power it is, but you definitely know the direction. You definitely know. From where you're located, you do know that if you navigate the river, you could get there quickly, or you could travel overland to try to get to this location. There is possibility of trying to find some kind of cover as well, but with the river rapids, chances are you'll move a hell of a lot faster on the fast-flowing, moving water, especially now that you're past the rocks, than you would trying to climb land. And you do think that at least majority of the way, you're going to get closer to whatever source of this power. And okay. And there are 3 of these monstrosities. The longer you stay, you're pretty sure there's going to be more of them.
So Gavin would just, he's this large spider still, yeah? It hasn't been more than an hour or so to take through the rapid? Yeah. Gavin would just start booking it down the river, still tied to the boat, just trying to use as much of this spider's mass. It is a large creature.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you can change it to a large creature?
Oh yeah, I'm a large creature.
Okay. Excellent. They I believe are the same thing as well. I think they're large creatures.
Has it been an hour since we escaped the Eton?
Oh, it's been quite a while. You can actually hear their voices, but they are nowhere near you.
I just mean for the duration of my spell. pass without trace lasts an hour, so it's a case of if
Oh.
if it's been more than an hour, then the spell's dropped. I imagine we're probably close to an hour, but yeah, I'm just not sure how long it's been.
Roll a die 6.
D6 got that already. That's a 3.
All right. It'll because you guys were spending so much time trying to move the dragon turtle boat, so it's going to last at least 3 rounds because you're like right at the edge of it going out. So
Yeah.
you are under that protection for right now, and this might give you some opportunity to get the heck up out of here, and still be protected. But yes, absolutely.
I imagine that once we pass the rapids, Bastian probably jumps back in the boat. I don't know if Gavin's still the spider on the outside, but maybe he's now tied to the front of the boat, and he's scuttling down the side, and I'm just trying to keep it away from the bank as much as possible with the help of the other 2. Well, other 3, if counting Calphus.
Okay. Calphus, trying his best not to help out at all, tries to find Val and get as close to Val as possible, and is just like trying to hold his mouth from screaming in panic as the chimeric, I guess you could call them chi mutants, are screeching in pain more so than hunger. It's more of like a blind rage as they their bodies start to mutate as almost a side effect of these bolts of lightning striking down. And you guys are able to get quite a bit of distance from the creatures. What would you calculate your passive stealth to be? Including the plus 10.
I'm not sure that Gavin would be trying to stealth. I think he just sees these things. He sees these things like this lightning coming down, and he doesn't know anything about the source of the magic, or because he failed those rolls. So I think Gavin would just be booking it as fast as he can.
Okay. Your spider-like body is dragging this thing, causing a wake. It starts to, like a speedboat, it starts to rear up. No, but yeah, you're using your legs.
Tubing.
Yep, absolutely. I was thinking the same thing. And it's so you're pulling it along. Your legs are like braced against the sides of the canyon walls as you're pulling it along. The chimeric creatures are screeching in pain. You can even hear the distant yells of the giants as you're guessing maybe some other chimeras attacking them at the same time. And you see up in the sky, one of the chimeras takes to the sky to try to fly away from its own inner pain, and the winds of the BLEAKSTORM start ravaging its body as the glass starts to impale its body, and you see its flesh starts to get ripped from its one of its heads and across its body, and it falls into the water, screeching in pain, dead. It's almost, they are blind with pain, but almost like they are scrambling towards safety and life and heat, and mindless because of the weird amalgamation of creatures that they are. Of course, like I said before, you have this kind of protection from you. All of you guys make a roll, and simply because of even though you may not even understand this, simply because of Val, all of you make initiative rolls, but you have advantage on those initiative rolls.
Bing.
Okay. Mm. Oops.
Well, all three of you got 15.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm affecting all of you. I'm giving you all.
That's cool. That's
Or
crazy.
maybe it's Carol. It's just aligning everything.
That's the problem, man.
Sorry,
Wow.
I didn't realize I had advantage, so I have 23.
Okay. All right.
Oh, fine. So
Perfect.
we're in tune and they're in tune.
That's awesome. Um, Bastion, how are you getting an 11?
Oh,
It's 15 on the no, it's 15, 11 on the die, and then my +4
Are you
dex
plus 4?
is
Okay. That's
yeah,
awesome.
gives me 15.
All right.
why do
Now,
I have a 4? I'm not supposed to have a 4. I only have a 3. I don't know why I have a +1.
all
Well,
right.
then I have a -1 to that.
All right. Now, the Chimera are going to act on initiative 11, and the environment itself I always have it default to initiative 10, which there might be some chaos going on with that. The Chimera do not know exactly where you're at, but they are. It is not a matter of like vision, more so than it is that they are being spawned as you are traveling downstream. So you're leaving behind a danger, and as you're moving forward, there's danger spawning as you're moving along. So it's not that the the Chimera that you left behind are coming after you. You're literally looking up at spawn beds as the chimeric creatures are reaching out a claw, and then a weird head starts to come out of its chest, and its hind leg starts to change into a snake or something of that nature. But with your head start, as it were, and your high initiative rolls, you can try to round a bend and at least try to take some kind of like put some major distance between you and the horrors that are going on around you. We can, along with whatever other actions you can take, we can default to you making like some kind of combination of like dodge and disengage and hiding kind of amalgamation, one-off. But what other activities are you guys going to do? And because anyone who has detect magic, whether you turned it on or not, it's on. You can see on the horizon, it looks like a pale green, sickly glow, glowish dome on the horizon. It's like pulsing like a heartbeat. And when it starts to flare, a bolt of lightning and strikes the ground. Not near the glow, but it seems to be like it's activating, almost like a static electricity of sorts, causing it to build in the air, and like smelling of ozone, and all of a sudden another lightning bolt strikes down.
My spider can jump 90 feet, which is a crazy amount. But how far do you think I could jump with this boat forward somehow and get like a solid boost?
Yeah. All right, Water Strider.
It's called a female steeder, and I don't think players are supposed to get control of monstrosities, but you can in Dragongrin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a very interesting druid. I like that. I like that class. It's so a 90-foot distance. That's pretty incredible. I'm liking that a lot. All right. So you pass by the you see the creatures literally spawning out of the rock, and you pull your legs back, take this, shoot yourself ahead. The boat getting dragged from behind you, and you leave them behind. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're like big old giant grasshoppers or locusts or something, I guess, maybe. And as you start getting closer to this, getting closer to where you hear this energy signature of sorts, you see that the bleak storm, you're getting into an area where almost like you're getting into the eye of the storm, much like where you see the swirling of the smoke and the clouds and things. You're instead of seeing it at a distance, that swirling is starting to come above you as you're traveling down the rope. So you're actually seeing it swirl as a vortex directly over your heads. And you guys have the opportunity to climb up onto the level land. The wind isn't as bad. The smoke and the dark glass isn't as flesh rending, and you may be able to see what the hell is going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, she in the soonest opportunity for that, you see that she looks towards again, she looks towards the rest, like I was gonna say Walker, Bastian, Gavin, and Val, as she like tries to scamper out, actually maybe even partially into the water and then onto the land, as it were.
All right.
And she looks back to see the reaction of the others.
She says, "Come, come."
Yeah, Gavin would immediately stop the boat and look to the rest of you for what to do, but Gavin's tied to the boat, so somebody would have to come rescue him.
Yeah, I think Bastian's like grabs the packs that might be left behind, the provisions that we've got, his pack of his own, and kind of waves at Vol to get out, and let's move, let's just follow.
Yeah, and Coral just makes her way. You can see now, maybe even clearer than before when we were back in the grotto, that her bowed legs as she's going from side to side with a stick towards Gavin, and as she comes up to your just to her huge shape, you know, and starts to try to like untie you, help you to come away from to be loose, basically.
All right. Cut this image here. As you guys are making your way, trying to untie yourselves and make your way up and out and away from the dangers, you see that there's on the plain, the flat plain, much like a desert expanse, almost like the classic image you would get from like Arizona or New Mexico, where this is a dry land, and in the distance there are like various plateaus and mesas and buttes with wind and sand rolling around them. You see that there is a circle of individuals around this monolith, and if I could, let's see here, there's a circle of individuals around a monolith, and you can see that they look undead, but not. There's an intelligence in their eyes, and you could see them. This energy pulsing from them, maybe they're drawing it towards them. But there's this rock in the ground, and you know them to be something that is emblematic to Dragongrin, a race of beings known as the Sarek, and they are. As even Bastian has a relationship to, they are like neither living nor dead, and they are also neither existent. They are a paradox of creation. They are living beings that do not belong in this time and space, and so they are. It's like something has cut off their line to life, to their very existence, almost as if they don't belong or they've been removed from this timeline as if their days have been taken from them. And you see that there's at least 5 of them you can see around them, and they are like moving almost like they are rhythmic in their power and such. You don't think that they are trying to create this chaos storm. It's more like they are feeding from it or energizing it, performing this kind of like strange ritual. And on the ground around them, it's like fairy fire, like the bleak is surrounding them and moving around them, almost as if the landscape itself is changing. And as you are here, when you look at your body and you look at the ground you're standing on, it's as if your body is changing, especially you there, Gavin. You see fairy, almost like ephemeral images of your body having different shapes. Some of you you can see like an old wound that you used to have, but now the wound is gone. You're standing up, you're kneeling down, you are walking forward. Now you've walked backwards 20 paces as if you're walking backwards in a time loop, as the chaos is starting to surround them on this in this rock that looks like some kind of like monument of power. And Val, when you take a look at it, you realize that it's not really a monument of sorts. It's really a giant mechanized hand that is trapped within the earth itself, with its metal and stone kind of intertwined, reaching up into the air. Mm-mm.
How far away is this from where we are, actually?
Quite a distance. You're not sure if you could even sneak up on them, but you would have to pass through this aura or whirlwind of potentials to get to them.
In here.
Bastion, you were muted.
Yeah, what the hell are they doing here? Does this seem something that's evil at all? Or is it just something that, it's just an accident what's happening? Like, is this something that needs to be stopped? Or is it because it's just known to be bad? Or is this just an everyday occurrence sort of thing? Or not quite every day, but...
Universally, you would know that the bleak itself is not evil at all, but it's much like a person randomly starting a forest fire or opening up the core of a radioactive location. It's not a good thing to cause the bleak not only to come down this far south, but to energize it to make it happen, because there's more often than not, there's something pretty nasty that's going to happen. It needs to be stopped. Now, mind you, there are plenty of people who have gone up into Uldane to try to harness the power of the bleak itself. Many people have gone there because the gods don't exist. They want to beseech the bleak to have their life changed, almost to like the lottery. They just maybe their life might change if they touch the bleak, but harnessing it and causing it to cause these effects is maybe not evil, but extremely careless.
It's like they're...
Go on.
I was going to say, it's like trying to instill order on chaos. I guess they're trying to focus chaos to do something, and it's almost contradictory to its nature.
Yeah. So these Sarek, did you say? Are these something that could be talked to, communicated with, reasoned with? or are they kind of that far aloof from us that it might not be possible?
As a Silverwise, they can be reasoned with. The one of the universal traits of a Sarek is that they no longer remember their old lives. It's as if their entire past life is gone, and they are trying to find their way in the world. And some of them have very bizarre but strange and very, I would say, somewhat emotional or even obsessive compulsions to try to find their way in the world. Much of it has to do with the Bleak itself. Some want to pass on their lives, and many of them, die and pass on. Others try to, find their way in the world by trying to be adopted or embraced by the world. But most are just trying to find some kind of magic, maybe, to cure their condition, or go into another world, or regain the old life that they left. But many of them are quite obsessive about magic and changing their very nature. They can be reasoned with in the sense that as long as it's not something that involves their obsession, that you know of.
Yeah, as Zarfin, their interactions, I guess their what's it called? Their outlook to the Sarek are they squander the potential of the goods and equipment they've inherited from history, but their desire to discover what they are is to be respected. Mm-hmm. So it's like I'm a little torn. It's like he's trying to do something positive and trying to discover something. So I'm like respecting him, but it's dangerous at the same time. So I'm a little hesitant to stop him, but still debating whether or not. But it's because he's just going over outcomes. If I stop him, is it going to make things worse? Is it stopping him going to be beneficial to me, or if leaving alone, just getting away from here is probably better?
As a matter of fact, it is very much like, in many ways, they are victims of an outside power, but their actions, it doesn't necessarily mean that you may want to ignore their actions as well. You don't necessarily know if they're innocent, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're evil. But side effects wise, problematic. Like you said, like wait, okay, shouldn't I? Should we talk to them? How do we stop this? You do know that there is the power that they're calling upon, that they're summoning, is deep into the earth, deep into the ground.
So do I think it's coming from Titan Tech that they might be drawing this power from?
Yeah. There's a pretty good chance.
Well, that...
Vol, there is a giant hand sticking out the ground. I'd call that Titan Tech.
Oh,
doesn't take a genius.
That's true. Sorry. I'm respecting, and now I'm more curious. I want to know how it's done. Because maybe I could do that.
Paul says, what are these things?
A perversion sometimes. Something to be feared or something to be respected, but they can be dangerous when they are obsessed with something. Our choices are to stop them, or to duck and hide and take cover and hope that whatever they're doing isn't going to kill everyone, well, us and everybody else in Aldane.
What they are doing to the environment, this is not right. If we can somehow stop this.
Well, you guys are deciding, and when you said the word obsessed, Raul is going to walk up to this creature, not in a threatening manner. His helmet's going to be down, and he's going to walk over to it to talk to it.
Okay. Roll percentile dice, please.
Uh, 46.
Okay. As you start to get closer, the shimmering power that is like emanating from this starts to you could like the pulse of like taking someone's pulse. The energy is like woo, woo, moving, and of course the storm, the bleak storm, is swirling and moving around you, and the creature there, full of power, its chest and its eyes kind of like aglow, looks down at itself and looks on the ground and looks up at you. No face, even though it looks kind of like desiccated or undead, it doesn't have any hate towards you, doesn't look at you as like threatening or something, but just kind of looks at you, and you realize there's a bit of a kindred spirit, and it raises its hand up very gently and looks at you and gives you like a don't come closer, don't come, like stay back. And you see energy swirling around, and above you there's like a crack of bolt of like purplish red energy from the bleak, and you realize if you stay here and you get closer, that bolt of lightning is probably going to strike down at you as you are about 120 feet away from him.
So I stay where I am.
And mind you, you against your armor and your body, you can feel like the electrical tension starting to rise.
Now that I've gotten a little closer, can I get a better look at that hand and see if I can deduce a bit of its nature from this distance, or even in part?
You know that this isn't just some random like section of something, that this Titan, whatever it is literally buried deep into the ground. Using your logic, you realize that it's probably big enough for you to enter inside of it. Like, it's of that size. This isn't a human-sized being, or even giant-sized. It's probably closer to a small city.
You're just, at one hand you're saying don't go near it, and the other hand you're saying go near it. Like,
yep.
I'm being conflicted.
Exactly. Well, this creature, the Sarek, is telling you not to get any closer, but he doesn't look like he's violent. Like, it doesn't give you like the evil eye and the point and the you're dead, that kind of thing, but like warning you to stay back.
How far am I from him? Or it?
120 feet. There's like lots of wind flowing around and such, so you may have to raise your voice if you want to have like a verbal conversation.
I will, as loud as I say in a loud voice. I'm asking, do you need any help? What is it that you're doing?
This being looks at you and he says, I sense power in you. You must stay back. This is my life. This is my life I want to return to me. My life. Yes, you can. I could use your help, but please do not take this away from me. I want to. get my family, my friends. They're all gone. They're fleeting images. Don't you see here? I finally found this power, and it's mine. It's mine. But only approach closely if there's a danger in approaching close. I don't know. I don't want you to lose your life. And he sits there, he falls to his knees, and he's like, and you see him trying to call this power yet again.
Coral now, because I'm guessing, do all of us hear this? Because it's like booming voice, I guess, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Coral just like starts with a cane making her way closer towards where Val is, and when she gets to Val and like this wind blowing and stuff, she says,
"What you are doing is affecting others, infecting the environment. You must stop this," she says.
The Sarek is like, I'm so sorry, but I can't control it. I can't control it. It can only be harnessed at this point, and it's just me. Don't you see? Don't you see my family, my friends? They're on the other side. There's no way to stop this. It must be stopped. But I have to get to the other side. It's been too long. It's been a moment. It's been centuries. I have to get to the other side. And you see, like, you can tell that, yeah, there is some kind of power that is being, almost as if the Sarek, maybe by accident or maybe through its obsession, summoned this power, but has no way to shut it off. And just by virtue of it being here, it isn't as bad as it could get. Almost like starting a forest fire and a person's kind of keeps trying to run around putting out the fires. This person's body, their literally power is keeping it from exploding and sweeping across the landscape, even though tendrils of it, as it were, are causing the Everbleak to reach down south. But you can see that this hand, these monuments poking up out of the sand and the dirt lead towards like a limb or something that's deep into the ground, as it were. Maybe there's like a power source or something that you might be able to uncover below. But he says, or it says, like, if you wish to help, promise me that I can step to the other side. And is just like screaming for you to begging for help, but also in a way a little sympathetic, like doesn't really want any of you to get hurt.
She would, I'll say one thing and then I'll stop so that everyone else can do what they're doing. It's, but she would like start to push forward, just slowly, step after step, as she starts to go towards this direction. And she says,
we can help you. We can help you.
And she says, make your way to the center of the monuments, but be quick about it. There's pure potential here, and it could strike you down. So you all have an option. You can dash forward and make your way to what essentially is an open hand. Now that your minds can kind of see where they're not really monuments, but they're finger digits flowing out of the hand. If you do so, you understand that you'll be at a bit of a disadvantage of whatever effect might happen to you. You could walk purposefully but casually, and it will take you twice as long to get there, understanding that you might have twice as many opportunities for the pure potential there, or you could walk very slowly and it'll take you 3 times as long. Any of you that attempt to get closer, you're going to have to roll percentile dice and see what effect happens to you on a wand of wonder.
Wow.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
If you could take one round, but if you need to make a save, it's going to be a disadvantage. If you go real slow, you take 3 rounds to get there. You're like your slowest. You'll get advantage on the saves, but
Carol's gonna dash for sure.
Wait, well, out of all the characters, I think you would. Yeah, while this was going on, Vo's helmet comes up, and Bastion's probably seen it in the past, but on his right arm spirals out a shield, and he starts making his way, and he's also going to pull out this sphere that has revolving segments, and they start spinning faster. And for the next hour, I have advantage on all dexterity acrobatics checks. And the reason I wanted to do it is because this is a special archon. I have just taken 3 Aeonic fatigue, and I'm still trying to figure out when some archons use that. I guess it's because they're expending it. Some archons, after expending a significant amount of energy to create notably powerful effects, need time to recharge. Such archons have Aeonic fatigue value. Archons have they can be used a number of times per long rest. Okay, I apologize. So I've used 1 out of 3, so it has like 3 charges.
Okay.
Until it until it's recharged, I believe, or something. I'll figure that out later. So I've used 1.
All right. You have the opportunity to prepare yourselves, by the way.
Super. I'll say my last thing and then I'm done. So what she's going to do is there's certain situations with Carol, actually, if she thinks something's completely hopeless and maybe even pointless, she will not want to sacrifice her life in any way. But in a situation like this, and like hearing the words that have come out of this this being, there's a hope, there's a possibility, and so as she dashes forward, I'm going to use portent. I've got a 4 and I've got an 11. If anything happens negatively to her, I would like to use the 4 if that's a possibility. So that's just roughly just what's going to happen.
Okay. Let's go down the line here. Those who are dashing, please roll percentile dice.
And how far is it away from where we are on the outside of the fairy fire ground to the place where we want to go?
You're yelling across to this Sarek from like 120 feet, but you can make your way across. Like if you're just taking a dash action, this isn't affecting you every round that you are in this region. It's just that the faster you move, the greater chance that you'll have to pass through this literal chaos, storm of chaos around you. Other than that, the land is pretty blasted, with very little in the way of like cover or something of that nature. But as you're getting closer, you do realize that, there is something under the ground. Not sure what it is, but you may be even standing on it.
I rolled a 1 on my percentile dice.
Did you?
Oh my. That's good or bad?
Or terrible.
Okay. You are affected. You're okay. As you attempt to run across it, all of a sudden you're starting to move slowly, and everyone those around you who we're not sure yet exactly how they've been affected, but you see everyone around you start moving at like hyper speed as the world starts to slow around you, and the slow spell effect is cast over your body as you try to make your way, which is actually going to make it in effect slow you down to get there in the first place. So sorry about that, man.
Thought it was going to be worse.
Yep. All right, Coral.
Yeah, absolutely. So Coral does 74.
Ooh. All right. Oh no. Okay. If you, and I'm sure you guys could call this list up as well. I'm actually using one from Roll20 here. You feel flames and heat start to surround you, and almost like a fire from within you and without, and a ball of fire erupts at your feet, on your fingertips, in the very air itself.
Can I react to this at all? Is there any possibility of reaction to this?
Absolutely.
Try and do, whether it happens or not, it doesn't matter. But as soon as she starts to feel these like flames just like within her and around her, she tries to do two things. One, as a reaction, she tries to do absorb elements, and she says Corellius Car, and then she does a quick movement with her arm, as a bonus action she tries to Misty step 30 feet forward.
Sweet. Okay. I think the range it's only has a. I mean, it's radius.
Absolutely.
Is that radius, or what's the difference between radius and diameter? My mind just.
Diameter is the whole length of the circle. Radius is half the length from the center to the outside.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Wow. Okay. If you Misty step that far, that's awesome. Okay. So you, as you feel the flame starting to surround you, you Misty step straight ahead, going from one place to another, and moving ahead, and you see the empty space where you used to be. It's like a void in space, and the fire erupts around it, and actually you see where you used to be behind you as the flame and engulfs where you're at. You step out of the region, and there's just maybe tendrils of smoke off of your body, but no damage.
Absolutely, I can imagine that she's as she like Misty steps through the next portal, she almost like stumbles on the floor, looking backwards, seeing this where she actually just was, as she like gets to her feet. Absolutely.
Awesome. Val. Vol.
15.
Only Val. It's Vol.
It's Vol or Vaul. I don't know. It might sound a little like Raul instead of Paul. I don't know.
That's awesome. Yes.
So I got 15.
A 15. As you prepared yourself, from the previous encounter you had with the chimera, just a little bit of that chaos energy was inside of your armor, and it starts to flare up, and you feel like a little bit of a pain on your arm, and then the electrical charge kind of shoots through up your arm and into your chest. You are stunned until the start of your next turn, believing something awesome has just happened. That's reading it from the thing.
I like to view it as a short in my armor,
Okay.
but I sort of also have like a vision that I get a view of what the rest of the body of this Titan construct thing actually looks like for a moment.
Awesome.
But it's almost like a fleeting dream as it fades away. When I am not stunned anymore, the vision just dissipates. But I'm left with a feeling more than anything at the end.
That's awesome. It's a combination of like a physical stunning and maybe like a psychological stunning as the information floods into you, and you see that this isn't it is humanoid, but not a human being. It's got two arms on one side of its body, almost as if they are tunnels or pathways large enough for you to walk through its body. It's got a larger arm on the other side of its body, with only like 3 fingers on one hand. Its chest cavity is filling a empty space under the ground where the bleak storms have covered this thing with dust and dirt and grime and blackened glass. And the Sarek who's summoning his power is literally summoning it from some kind of power source deep inside of the chest of this being. And that power source is deep enough that you literally would have to enter into a cavity in its arm, slide your way through and walk inside of its body to uncover exactly what the heck is going on. It of course has legs and a skull that seems to be widened and pushed into the shoulders of this being, and it's prone, so it's laying down as if it was either knocked down or trapped or put in stasis or something of that nature. The hallways are angled, so you can tell there are a lot of tight spaces with what would be the equivalent of like conduits, angles. There are angles in terms of like places where the floor is pitched and turned and twisted as well. Okay, Bastion.
Bastion at first is being quite cautious moving.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to move at half speed to start off with.
Okay.
Because he's eyeing this Sarek quite suspiciously. He's heard what it said, but again, he doesn't know what to make of it, what to do.
Okay.
He doesn't want to just kill it because there's no point. It's not the case here, but he's obviously affecting the environment and everything else around it. So he's eyeing it quite cautiously as he's kind of edging slowly across the ground. So for his first round, for his first turn, he's going to move just 20, well, I guess it would be 40 feet because
Yes. Mm-hmm.
2 movements would be at half speed. So he's moving at half speed basically across the distance.
And just as a reference, because you are a Silverwise, there's the gray. It's the barrier between death and life, but there's also this ever since Lightfall, when the dismembered Lord took over, that as people have died and people have passed on, some of them have these unfinished lives. And some of those unfinished lives aren't necessarily the things that they've done in their life, but literally their lives have been stolen, as if there are spirits that exist on one side of the world, but no one remembers them on the other side of the world, as if they've never existed in the first place. And so there's between this barrier of people trying to get back to the life that they used to have and the life that they lost. So you can tell that this is kind of an amalgam of that energy and what's going on. And there may even be remnants of those spirits in and around, trying to push itself through the bleak to get back to Dragongrin, to get back to reality.
Yeah, so like this thing might be trying to go the other way, and there's other things coming back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's kind of looking, kind of potentially seeing this almost, or getting a sense of this as he's edging slowly across. What do you want me to roll for that if I'm just going at half speed?
Yes,
A percentile still.
please. Yep.
Yeah, I got a 48.
Surprisingly and actually beneficially, a cloud of 600 oversized butterflies fills a 30-foot radius centered around you, and it becomes heavily obscured.
I can imagine that these are echoes from the Wailing Grey. So they're not physical butterflies, but they're these spiritual echoes of butterflies or creatures that have manifested into butterflies.
In Uldane, insects are pretty dangerous in general, from the most minor gnat all the way to the hugest insects, flying and crawling, and collectively people call them kites, kytes, kites. And you are surrounded by they erupt from the ground and kind of push their way through the thin membrane of the bleak itself and just start surrounding your body, and they're like swarming around you and landing on your skin, and more or less being annoying rather than being harmful to what you're doing. But it is heavily obscured. Do you have, I know you're a ranger, so this isn't much of a question, but do you have any method of being able to sense where you're going other than visually? I mean, you have a great sense of direction, but do you have any other like?
I think more so the map right allows me to understand the best direction. So yeah.
Okay, so even without being able to see, you already mentally probably map the things that are around you, where the objects, hiding spaces, potential enemies would be located, so you're able to make your way through there. The Gavin, you're still in this like slowed phase of, mind you, how you reacting to it. You're moving at normal speed. Everything around you, this ball of fire erupts and collapses in upon itself very quickly. You know, you see Vol barely hesitate as he's moving forward and such. You see like the swarm of insects come around, but it happens very quickly for you. Coral, you arrive at this monument of sorts, and you see in the center of the monuments, it actually look like a small stone and then a large metal thing jutting out of the ground, and you realize like, oh, it's like whatever encasing was around this Titan has been peeled back, maybe removed, maybe it's been pieces have been stolen, and in the palm of its hand, you see what looks like basically another hand, much smaller, that's wide open, and there's a hatch there too. And you see, looks down, and strangely enough, you see what look to be handles for a ladder.
Absolutely. Making her way over there, she tries. She doesn't even check for any form of traps or anything. She holds the handle.
Okay.
And just like tries to, as much as possible, pull it open. And as she's trying to pull it open, she looks back, seeing still these butterflies going, and seeing Vol like maybe 10, 20 feet away as she tries to pull this open.
Okay. Roll a die 4 for me, please. And
okay, 4.
4. You guys have enough experience to know the type of the types of enemies that are out there, and some things just don't belong in a living civilized society. An undead is the kind of thing, the lives unfinished, the undead, even if it's not not their fault. Their spirits may have moved on, but their bodies have not. And you get this strong feeling of the undead deep into this place. Not here, but when you open up the hatch, it's like your attachment to like the weave of energy is one where like the necrotic energy down in this place is enough that you basically smell it. You almost feel it in your skin. You're like, oh, there's probably undead things down deep inside. So, but that's what you sense. No specific danger here at the hatch, but down deep inside of this chamber or Titan or something, that's what you sense. The let's see. Well, actually, all three of you, the three of you are actually acting on the same bastion. You decide to go a little bit to move a little bit careful. Making your way, keeping your eye out. Vol, you've got this flash of insight as to in terms of the shape of this Titan that's below you and where its power source is. And of course, Gavin being affected, all three of you now must roll percentile dice as you head towards the hatch. And you, unless something stops you, you'll get to the hatch. So all of you give me your, why am I not getting? There we go. Okay.
Sorry. So I rolled a 48 last time. I did better this time. I rolled a 49.
Which is actually kind of awesome. It might be a little story in this. The insects, these weird, strange butterfly chrysalis type of things, maybe they eventually transform into something far more dangerous, are still following you as you make your way across the field and towards the hatch. But other than that, except for getting them out of your clothing and your pack and such, there are no further harmful effects. But Val, strangely enough, while this region is quite dry, on the most part, it's pretty dry and bleak. The bleak storm does open up above you, and a heavy rain falls in a radius around you. Becomes kind of lightly obscured, and the rain falls for just a brief moment as you hear electricity, and you're like, and then it's just a downpour of this blood red rain sweeps down over your body. But there are no other ill effects that happen to you.
I make sure my goggles are on and yeah, I'll make my way closer.
Unfortunately, when that rain comes down, you hear a crack of thunder, and then boom, and a bolt of lightning heads towards Gavin. What do you do there, dude?
Well, I'm assuming I'm still slowed, so I imagine it comes so fast Gavin can't do anything. So, but I don't know if I'm still slowed.
It doesn't have any detail. Most of these have a little bit of a detail, so let me figure this out. Let's see. I'm sure. I'm almost sure that there is. Is there any kind of penalty? Okay, there's a -2 penalty to your saving throw. Please make a dexterity saving throw to get out of the way of the lightning bolt, please.
Okay, and I think it's a -2. Okay.
Yes, it is a -2.
I'm not a very dexterous person.
Oh man.
That is a 4.
Ow. Okay. All right. That's pretty bad. let's see. Let's see. Lightning bolt.
If it's like call lightning, it'd be 3d10 or 4d10 in a
No,
storm.
no. This is actually lightning bolt.
Oh, okay. So 86. That's nice.
Wow. All right. So. Wow. Three. 27 points of electrical damage you take as though the bolt of lightning kind of arcs out of the sky towards you, and you from your last encounter with the chimera and your body forming and changing and stuff, it's almost as if the bolt of lightning is not just from the sky, but like charging that part of your body that's alien to you, and so you get charged. Like there's the alien elements that are inside your body get like ripple through you, and so the electrical energy flicks and moves through you. Now, when you get to the hatch, something very important that you feel as each of you gets to the hatch, you see Coral moves down into the hatch, just doesn't worry about the traps or anything, just goes down the ladder, and each of you go down the ladder. Oh, yes, please.
Sir, I wanted to interrupt for a moment.
Absolutely.
I like the thematic, so I'm asking you, the lightning comes through me.
Okay.
Am I able to intercept it before it gets to him? Because of the nature of my armor and my special, because it's lightning based and stuff. Because
basically, all right, okay.
If that's okay, I like to then cast as a reaction, absorb elements as it comes through me.
Yeah, how does that work?
Essentially, the spell captures some of the incoming energy, lessening its effect on me and storing it for the next melee attack. Not that that matters, but essentially gives me resistance to lightning.
Ah, okay.
I see thematically that would work because the cloud opens up over me, a lightning bolt comes through me, and before it arcs, it sort of powers up the armor, and it starts glowing. So I don't mind taking half of the damage, and then the other half dissipates. So instead of going towards Gavin at all.
Now that lasts for quite a while, right? I mean, it has a duration to it.
Oh no, it's just for the next round.
Oh,
so
okay.
It'll slowly dissipate since we're not in combat. It won't be of any use, but
okay. Yeah, absolutely. I would split the damage between you, and then apply the resistance thereof, right? So 14 and 14, and then you take 7 with resistance. You take 7 damage, and Gavin, unless Gavin has able to. Okay. Although I believe you have there's some ways for you to get around this, Gavin. I'm sure you're a druid.
Not really in a spider. I can't cast anything.
Oh, that's right.
But I'm gonna have to drop the spider form to get in the hatch anyway, so it doesn't really affect me.
Well, even though they're large, can't they go into tiny spaces, at least medium sized?
I would, because I think I would say their bodies are small. Their limbs are large, probably taking up a lot of space. But by the way, there are actual rules for fitting into tight spaces. If you are in a tight space, you have disadvantage on, I believe, dexterity saving throws, and others have advantage to attack you, as well as the fact that if you're fitting into a tight space, no one can fit past you. So you know, if you're first, sorry, or if you're last in a conduit or something, yeah, sorry about that. As you enter in, you guys get the same feeling rush of like you whether it's like a smell or something coming from it, but each of you senses something different. Gavin, you sense like the antithesis of nature, which is like the scientific thing of like constructs, like the smell of them created, the power that it takes to to create them, which sounds like something that Vol would be involved in. And Vol, strangely enough, instead of anything like that, you sense a strong sense of living, like something was like mold or some kind of plant life or something is deep down inside. And Bastion, you sense none of anything of the above. What you sense is like you sense humanity. People are you hear the sounds of people walking around. You smell the sense of like cooking. You smell sweat, and then all of a sudden, those sensations start to revolve through each of you, and you get a different sensation. This Titan being inside, as you enter down inside of its cavity, you realize that its power is the epicenter of potential, and that you are inside of a region where momentarily things may change, because in another time and place, things might have happened differently. Being inside of the body of this Titan, things may be different. And as you go down into the corridor, you slide down into the chamber, you're now down in the forearm of this titanic being or beast. Vol, you can actually see the conduits. They can't see them, but you see like through your goggles. You see the lines of power pulsing from up its arm. Well, you're inside of a conduit, but you're pulsing up its arm to enter outside. And you realize that periodically, it's almost as if time is shifting inside of this monstrosity of sorts. And you see like a small mechanical bug walk along a conduit, and you're looking at it. And as you look at the small mechanical bug, it's got like little gears. It looks like it's made of like brass or bronze with little like wires attached to it. And it starts to whoop, 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 starts to change. And you see it looks like a skeletal hand grasping at it, and it starts to walk along. And then that mechanical hand changes and shifts, and you see it looks like a vine, like a plant-like vine. And you realize that there's a good chance, as you start to travel through here, that if you come upon something, it might change its nature simply by you walking through time inside of the Titan. As you right, so
I would like to grab it.
Are you going to grab it in any particular form? It doesn't look violent, and it's not aggressive.
I'd like to grab it in the more clockwork form, I guess.
Okay.
More mechanical form.
Perfect. When you grab it, it literally feels like a small, like maybe the size of a small rat or a mouse or something, and it's got little hands and little dials and things on it. But other than that, it perfectly physical, doesn't change or shift or anything like that. Yeah. But of course it was like, where is it? Oh, I don't know. I stuck it away. Nothing untowards happens to you, and you sense no danger from it. This is where we are going to call a little bit to an end for this session. There's quite a bit more, but I didn't want to extend this too far out. I want to thank you guys for taking part of that. By the way, I'm going to let this keep on recording, so if you guys need to go, you need to get the heck up out of here, that's perfectly fine. We're just going to have like a little after show discussion and talk about things. But before we get out of here, I want everyone here to promote anything and everything that you're up to or doing. And if you're not promoting anything, any other games you're in or anything you're looking forward to, either in this session or something else outside of it, or Dragongrin in general. And we'll start with our cubic elements here. We'll start with you, Evan.
Hi, I'm Evan. There's really nothing to advertise here, but it's just been a really good time, and hopefully I can start being more of a member in AbTab. I think that'll be fun, and Yeah, thanks everybody, whoever is watching.
Let's go to Ian.
Absolutely. I was going to say nothing to plug, but Dragongrin, fantastic setting, and DBJ, awesome as always, man. I'd say fantastic, really, and great playing with the rest of you guys as well. Super.
No problem, no problem. Vol, please promote your channel.
Hi, I'm Paul. Basically, I'm also known as the Raven Rolls, and there's my logo there. I don't have a lot games going on right now. I'm on a bit of a break as I work on a new setting called the Lightless World, and I've enlisted the help of Marquis Artis to helping me develop it a little bit. He's given me some good encouragement on it, so I thought I could elicit some of his help. And that's still, I have some mechanics, but I'm working more on the setting and some more mechanics as well on that. And hopefully I'll be able to have at least some sort of play test shortly, maybe hopefully this year, like to try it out. Aside from that, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome.
And just like to say, Ian, it's great to play with you again. It's been a while. We were in
Oh man,
it's March. Was it the Tomb of Annihilation? We called it the March of Annihilation. It was a West Marches style type of game, and yes, I had a turtle barbarian monk. That he was a lot of fun.
Haroon. I'm not gonna forget the name, man. I'll tell you.
Oh, Neingalo Mitinga. It was Samoan flavor to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I played with Kevin a lot. And Evan, keep playing. It's a few times with you. It's also great playing with all of you. So can't wait until next game.
And Kev, please, sir.
Thanks for having me on again. Good fun. It's nice having a game that doesn't always involve combat. I mean, it's a part of what I like, but also problem solving is always nice. And I think as a group, we problem solved pretty well once again. So it was pretty good fun. Be interesting to see what happens next. I'm definitely going to be missing for the next 2 weeks because I have work for the next 2 weeks. So hopefully the rest of you guys will enjoy and solve the mystery of this giant construct. Yeah, Dragongrin, brilliant. Check it out. Abtab also has the Mecha Hack and Gloam, as well as Harbinger as well, which are all excellent settings and systems as well, which I've always enjoyed, regardless of what game it is. Again, I've played on Paul's channel a few times, so check out the Raven Rolls and yeah, keep doing what you're doing as well. It's been good, and I'll look forward to jumping in a couple of weeks, hopefully, and catching up. And I'll try and catch the video the weeks that I'm missing as well, just to keep up to date. Hopefully I don't get left behind and I can just tag along somewhere, something like that. But yeah, it was great playing with you guys as well, Evan, Ian. Good to have another British voice on as well.
Absolutely. Lastly, I'm DBJ. My channel is RPG with DBJ, of course, and I'm a writer for Critical Hit Publishing. My channel is live Monday through Friday for an hour it's on broadcast on Twitch, Discord server, and YouTube live. We take a subject and we talk about it all week long from Monday through Friday. And it's completely interactive. And if anybody wants to be part of that, it is 6 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. So a little bit better if you're, across the pond. But if you're here in the States, it's hella early, which I understand. But that being said, I our newest release for the cinematic environs is Wetlands. It is in the layout stage right now, so it's hovering around 90 pages or so, which is pretty. I didn't realize there was that much material, but there is. So it's kind of cool. We're looking at art and the layout and kind of condensing and or writing to do that artistic magic that's done with when the layout process comes along. But as these guys all pointed out, Absolute Tabletop, great group of creators, and the created that they've made. Hardis is a fount of inspiration, and his scavenger world should be coming out pretty soon. He's a wordsmith, very, very incredible, always coming up with some new information when it comes to sparking ideas that I come to think of and I've cherished till this day. And Drift Chapel and Oath of the Frozen King are really good examples of the things they can use. And lastly, I'll say A Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, over 450 pages plus, I believe. We're barely scratching the surface of what's in it. And there's so many dials and things to turn and twist and manipulate for your own world that it's pretty incredible. So hopefully we will get to a lot of that if we continue the series. This series is called, I'm calling it an Outpost series, where players are not just able, but almost encouraged to drop in and out to want to play in the game. So as each session begins and ends, there's a place for a new player to jump in to continue the story. And if you can't make it, no big deal. That's the whole point. You can come back in. Some people have very strange schedules as well, and life gets in the way. And as a challenge, he didn't challenge me, but the complex games apologist brought up the idea that why is it that we don't play when people can't be there? And I said, you know what? I'm going to specifically make a game for that specific purpose. So this will be a regular game on Sunday, and you can just jump on in, jump out, make space or whatever, and story will continue. So guys, thank you very much for being part of it. And lastly, okay, if you have to go, please, no problem, you can leave. But I thought we'd have just a little bit of a free talk at the end of this. So if someone sees it, because a lot of times we'll say goodbye and then we don't really talk about like the game or what happened in session. So I thought we would just do a little bit of like a 10-minute preamble or post-amble about gaming in general and about like Dragongrin. So I thought we would talk about that. Anybody can go first.
Excellent. Offline now. No, so what I was going to say was, first of all, again, this was excellent, really excellent. I found that because I was reading the stuff, I personally, as a player, I need more time to digest because ideally, I can see now, I really wish I actually made a Dragongrin character instead of a diviner. I chose a diviner because I for a long time, almost years, I would say, I've always wanted to play a diviner. I've done enchantment and stuff like that, but I've never done that. And I was like, let me try this now because I'm not going to get a chance. But it was. I thought it was great though. What you did is, I like it a lot. And last thing I will say is, I will, when it gets full again, the next time it's either the original players or a new person comes, I would like to be the first person out. I'm more than happy to do that, to dive out first. It's really cool.
Good. I just want to say that we're making it. It seems like we're making light of the fact that there's too much information in Dragongrin, but honestly, and this is absolutely positively a compliment, that there's too much it's so inspiring when you read it that it's almost too much to use, meaning like the value of buying it or obtaining it, the use of it far exceeds the monetary value if you were to measure it out, right? Because excuse me, like they pulled a section out of the book, which is 75 pages for character creation. And if you were to just read through each of the heritages and each of the, like all the, what there are their races, their heritages, they all have a story in it. Then you read through all the cultures. I think there's 11 cultures they have. And the way it's written, and James and Tim have said this from the very beginning, like in real life, history is fluid. Some people think, others believe, yet others posit. You know, he does that unreliable narrator. And I love unreliable narrations because everyone can assume something is true until it's not, right? And they go through that through all the cultures. And then they have like the random tables in the cultures, like of their titles and their names and their, you know, special items and days of honor and the calendar and weather systems and such, that you can really twist and shape Dragongrin to fit your type of game. So, and then each setting is actually true in the meta. So I even like that part, that everyone's Dragongrin that doesn't fit together is actually a true Dragongrin based on the time period. So I like that. I like that a lot.
The last thing I will say, the only thing I need time. This is it, because I'm just like reading the stuff and I'm like, Paul was helping me. Paul was like, I can help you with this. And I think, was it last night, Paul, that you said that you typed? And I was just thinking, Paul, I'm tired. It's taken me all this time just to figure this guy. It's like, oh my gosh, man.
I went through it quickly based on the character, that backstory, and I gave it to you because I'm in love with this setting, and I haven't even scratched the surface. I don't know my character fully. I know basically I went through the heritages quickly because I had an idea. I wanted to play an artificer armor. So I went through, I said, which is the best one? Okay, I went through the cultures and I realized the Zarfin and the Drogus, but I'm already playing a Drogus in Tim's game, Tim Kearney's game. So I thought he's actually a barbarian, which is interesting. But so I went with the Zarfin, and then I said, okay, which cultures, which heritages are in there? And I went back that way. But for you, you went human, so I looked at human, and I said, and went through quickly the cultures that best fit the character concept. And I thought I was looking at the Grim Duel because they almost look, I don't know if tribal's the right thing, but almost similar to what you were describing as your character. And still there was a mechanical bonus that, yes, it's mechanical, but it just fit perfectly in there. And it was, I'm trying to remember now. I'll look at it quickly. Oh, prophetic awareness, I think was that the one? And I thought that fit perfectly, yeah. But I didn't give it half the attention that someone playing it might, but I thought I'd give you just enough information to whet your appetite if you had the time. But I know that there's
great.
So much.
That was great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just see that there's each of the just the there's so much story in each little part of the game that it's kind of, it feels like it's overwhelming. And I at one point I intended to do like a review. My channel's not really a review channel. I'm not really a very good reviewer, but I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a review of the book. No, it's one of those things where you could probably review like each heritage.
You could review
Old
Oldane, huh? Right?
Right.
Could, like, and one section is just dripping with inspiration and 10,000 ideas, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
7 campaigns in each section, I feel like.
Oh, I know. It's just what I've looked at. Like if I'm actually still on the Grim Duel, and if I was playing a Grim Duel, I could look, okay, we just met the Serek creature, and how does the Grim Duel culture relate to Sarek, and it says, having seen inside the great wind and having been blessed by it, they are a chosen people, but for what purpose it is not certain. So I figure since the cultures are a prominent part of the characters, it's a good jumping point. So I said, even if you don't know how to play, because I said there's just so much. If I read everything on the Zarafin and the Darrow and so much, it's at least you can jump back to it and say, okay, how would my culture react? But based on my character, you can always change it. Like if you're like one of the reasons I was looking at for Ian's character to have didn't want to pay the tithe because they believe in a communal tithe to pay, but if you can't put anything in, they actually kick you out of society. So I was just thinking that for my own, if I was playing a similar character, and I thought maybe you're not, maybe you hold on to your beliefs more, maybe you don't. And there's just, as I said, so much going on based on everything. There's so many charts
and
fine tune your character.
And with me, and this doesn't look so good, but with me, it's I like to, as much as possible, be like organized and have my shit together, which I'm not. But it's just you know, it just takes. Wow. So no, I have to do this first, and even this I can't even do. So it's like.
Oh, don't get me wrong. That class, like normally, I'd like to delve right into the setting and pick a class. And I said my barbarian in Tim's game is a mauler. They use Titan-sized weapons. These are two-handed, oversized weapons. But the armorer, even the artificer in general, even though they can't probably say it belongs in the setting, it totally does. And the armor, I just felt worked really well, especially when I started rolling like my cultural thing is the Arcan Eyes, and I thought that works well with an artificer and even the armorer. It just, and I rolled that the specialty of its my almost like a clan, like almost like it's or guild type thing is a body modification. And I thought, wow, that works so well, especially with the armor. The armor becomes one with their body. It can't be removed. So I figured it just, like I said, all these, you can roll randomly. You can pick off the charts. There is so much available. And yeah, as I said, I'm a lot like Ian. I like to know all my options and creating the character, but I just scratch the surface and I'm already in love with this character. So this, like I said, this setting is amazing.
I mean, for me, it was a case of I've been through the book once and not skimmed through it, but went through it enough to get an idea of how everything worked and the kind of individual sections that you need to know to build characters and stuff. And I thought, okay, so if I was going to play this type of character, which I like to play, or this type of character, what would I do? How would I build it together? I think what DBJ has done really well was explain to us what type of games these are. And so, I mean, it's something that I really like is where it's, okay, this is a survival, travel, not necessarily combat situation based, but it's about getting from point A to point B. So for me, I'm like, okay, I want to build a character that fits into that role, that fits into that. If you was like, okay, this is a war simulator almost, you know, you are leading armies, you're part of an army, then I'm going to create a character that fits within that setting, that kind of game mechanic that you're building. If it was a case of, okay, this is going to be completely set in one of the cities, so you're going to be running around in the cities, I'm going to pick a character that kind of fits that gameplay equally. And so like, I think what's really helped me make my character pretty quickly was the fact that you set the sessions as, okay, these are survival, travel, getting from point A to point B. So I've got a character that I had a character in mind. How else can I flesh out this character to make this character fit what you want to be doing within the sessions? And so that's what I kind of that helped me build my character was the description of the games to start off with. Again, if it was a different type of game, then I would I'd like to fit a character to fit and make sense within the description of the game that's being presented to us. So that's what I've enjoyed and what really helped me, to be fair.
You guys know that I call myself the self-appointed third pillar-ist of the tabletop RPG community, and it's basically, like, I love the environment. I love complicating encounters, right? Or having multiple options, having more options than you could possibly perform in a limited amount of time. I like that. I like things that escalate. I like to incorporate lots of elements that force you to move forward, even if it's to your detriment. I like to try to do those things. Now, am I successful in all those? That remains to be seen. But my intention is there, and I'm pretty sure you guys understand what my intention is in terms of, like what you're saying, Kev. Like, you're saying, hey, this is what this game is about. If it means avoiding conflict, and that's just what's going to happen, which for me, I don't mind at all. And the opposite of that would be blasting through conflict. I'm like, whatever. There's no limit to the number of things that are inside the monster manual. I can always add more if I want to, but I really like, or really want to push forward using other things other than just causing damage to things, to enemies as a means of success or moving forward or solving a problem or whatever the case may be, which I think sometimes is undersold in role-playing games, where the environment is kind of like drifted off to a subsection in the back of the book. And I think we're missing something a little bit. So, I mean, that's just my particular opinion, but I'm just hoping to promote that a little bit in these games, and, for good or bad. Maybe I'll suck at it, and other people are like, I'll do it better. And I'm like, yes, I got you. Pulled you in and I got you. But whatever case may be about concerning that, I do like the idea of, like, having a fight in a torrential rainstorm, or like while there's an earthquake going on, or a building's on fire, or you're hanging off of a cliff, or you're crossing that rope bridge and the enemy just happens to be there at that that moment where you're trying to cross the raging river and you're holding onto a rope or something, and having things happen. Someone falls in the water, or someone gets trapped, or you're juggling. Okay, what am I going to use my movement action or my bonus action? How do the numbers work when I try to do this other thing? Use and abuse the environment to have a good outcome come about. So that's just my only thing. But
well, like last session, like you put us in combat with the Chimera. Well, actually, we put ourselves into combat with the Chimera, and but we had to worry about everything else that was going on us. I had to decide, should I use Mage Hand to remove some of the debris that had fallen in the boat, or should I shoot the Chimera, or should I do something to navigate us out of there? And I don't do that enough. I don't do that enough in my games. So I think it was a Harbinger game. I had there was the combat with a stationary boss. It was actually Oath of the Frozen King reskinned, and there were it was a specter for the facility, so it was controlling the whole facility like an AI, and there were power conduits, and those provided bonuses. They finally figured out that they had to destroy the conduits, but every so often a barrel mech construct would come to life. That was the Frozen King summoning stuff, essentially. Yep. And that's why I like the adventure kits from Absolute Tabletop. They I've played Oath of the Frozen King. I've run it so many times, reskinned. There were even the same players didn't realize I was running Oath of the Frozen King. And Dragongrin, if you're playing it as it is, it's a little more noticeable. It's harder to reskin the base one. I tried. I was a little unsuccessful. That was probably more me. But I've also used it. I've done where I removed Drift Chapel out of the equation, and I've run 2 mini campaigns with the same format, but I've done a full reskin, a new town with new people, and I'm getting better at that. And I ran 2 mini campaigns, and I said a lot of fun, especially the guys at Absolute Tabletop. Everything they put out, from Harbinger to Dragongrin to the adventure kits, it's all great.
Yeah, I love it. I can't. I'm part of me is a little bit upset that I feel like I won't be able to get to all the information in the book, because you could just take one location or one culture or something, and you could build a whole. You could build a campaign around it. I mean, heck, you could even make the case that if every player picked one culture, but you get you pick your different heritage and class types and things like that. I think you could even have a really great session just that way, just doing, hey, we're all, what's the one called? The Grimdull are like nomads or something. You could just play a whole group where there's just that, or anyway, because my mind, I'm thinking of the Granic Thane. You could play like a military campaign where like they're in an army or they're mercenaries, and
trying to retake Oldane or something.
Yep, retake.
Yeah. I like how instead of the D&D races and sub races, I like how they did culture and heritage, and they separated it. Yes, there tend to be some. I'm trying to remember my words. Some heritages that tend to follow one culture, but they say there are others as well. So you might not. There may not be any elves normally, but you might be one of 2 or 3, and while every culture may not fit you perfectly, I like that there's enough variety that you can make it work with a concept. They give you get plus, I can't remember if it's +2. I think it's +2 to one of 3 different, like 2 or 3 different stats, or something along those lines. So it's like, well, this culture may not have intelligence, which I need, but it has con, dex, and wisdom. So I could take dex and wisdom, and it still benefits my character. And there's usually one of the I'm trying to remember all the terms. Focuses, the cultural focus, I think, or something like that. That even if one doesn't fit, you can take a feat in place of it. So you could be. Everything seems to. You can make any of these cultures fit.
There's not to make this a political talk, but of sorts, but Wizards of the Coast and many other organizations are talking about like changing things and making them more diverse and such. And Wizards of the Coast basically is embroiled in that as well, and changing how this is a number of steps, but one of them was changing how the drow and orcs are portrayed, and maybe going back, and they want to change how the rules are done to allow more options to pick the elements that best represent your character. And I feel like Dragongrin is a perfect example of how to do it, right? I mean, we can still say that the heritage is basically their race. It's your biology. And so they have enough variations in there where, sure, this group of people biologically tend towards a number of of traits, but the number of traits are so varied that even within those traits, you're going to find a lot of variations, a lot of differences. We're talking about the Darrow. The Darrow are kind of gnomish, but goblinish. A little bit of halfling mixed in there as well. So you do have a spattering of like, oh, well, we can make them small and weaselly. Well, no, we can make them very intelligent. No, they're very quick and nimble. So you have this family of traits within the biological part of it, and then separating that from into the cultures, the different cultures themselves. Of course, there's going to be, you could have animosity between one culture and another, or you're from one region to another, but even within those cultures, there's variations as well, a lot of options and things. And of course, you could have your classic elf, dwarf, gnome, dragonborn, or whatever, and insert them into Dragongrin and still have them come from different cultures. So both the dwarf and elf have the culture of the Granic Thane, whereas an elf and dwarf may also completely different biologically, but also have the same culture of like the Grimdall or the Zarfin or the Drogus or something. And I really like that, because it breaks that mold of like, why do all elves have skill with like long swords and longbows? Like, that doesn't make any sense in maybe a aquatic region or a warlike race or a high-tech race or something like that. So I really like the fact that they did that, and it's a good template maybe for other people to learn from it as well.
Yeah, and I feel like, it's the nature versus nurture kind of thing, right? And it's never just one. And I feel like D&D, like classic D&D is all nature, but it doesn't take into effect that somebody growing up in America is very different than somebody growing up in Russia or something like that, or and you have different, because that's where you grew up, that's all so I think it's huge that and it's just it's more fun, and it's more dynamic, and it's more flexible. And yeah, I think D&D should definitely take note.
Yeah, I mean, it's we can. And also when you talk about like a culture, like say orcs or something, maybe their culture value strength and toughness, but then what if a human's raised in that culture? Okay, well, maybe they get the same strength and toughness and whatnot. And now part of me will miss a little bit of the classic like mindless horde kind of thing, although I'm sure there's a way to bring that about and still keep a lot of the more open-mindedness as well. I mean, there's always demons and devils and undead, and there's always evil priests and cults and things like that, and of course they need to die because that's Dungeons and Dragons, and they could always be the results of the big baddies, So I don't think there'll be a shortage of bad guys. I just think that we're just going to pivot away from it. And although honestly, we've been pivoting away from that for a while. Now, lots of people play goblins and orcs and half-orcs and heck, reaching into the bugbears and other monstrous races, minotaurs and things like that. So it's been happening over a long time. WotC's just deciding to go, you know what? Let's just make this part of the game. So
it just means we actually have to think about our enemy or the villain's motivations, right? And that just leads to more fleshed out campaigns, more engaging content, right? Because they're nuanced, and that's what all the best content is, right?
Yeah, I was playing, I joined a 3rd edition group, and the DM approved a goblin rogue, I believe. That's what I was playing. And yes, the party was fighting goblins, but they were not my people. And the DM said that was totally fine. He accepted it. But the players who were friends of his, I had just met them, they ended up vetoing my idea after a session or two, and I ended up leaving the group. It's like they said, well, goblins are evil. We don't they can't be PCs, sort of thing. And I ran a game, and somehow it was chaotic neutral character became leader of this evil bandit group, and his girlfriend, who also joined the group, they accidentally killed the leader. She was actually, I think, good alignment. The party came across them, managed to capture the leader and his girlfriend, and she's pleading not to kill him. Like it says, we just fell into it, but he's chaotic neutral, so he wasn't gonna like, oh, don't kill me. It was just his personality. And then one of the PCs just slit his throat. A good PC who grew up in a tavern his whole life, and it's like, how does that fit your character at all? And it's like, just because he's a bandit doesn't mean he's evil, you know, even though he was sort of forced to do evil stuff, because if he didn't, he would be killed by the group that he was part of. So I think hopefully this shift, I guess, enlightens people that just because people are of a certain group, they're not, oh, you're part of this group, you have to be evil. Well, I've played goblins, I've played probably half-orcs, I've played drow. Changelings is one of my favorite, and well, changelings are fun on their own. They could be anything they want. It's there's just so much more to experience in there when you don't pigeonhole stuff. They have to. Orcs are evil, goblins are evil. And drow are evil. It's like, well, cliche. Drizzt Do'Urden is not evil, and there's another one, I forgot his name. I don't know if he actually is evil, but he's not drow mentality. I think he's a bard of some kind, so I think he might be chaotic or something.
Jarlaxle, I think.
Yeah, Jarlaxle. There's just so much more when you break free of the stereotypes. It's not just limited to PCs. The NPCs should be breaking those stereotypes too. That doesn't mean Paladin comes across an orc and doesn't, the first thought is the orc evil. That's totally fine, but you have to also leave room for the possibility that just because they're an orc, they're evil. So
I wonder, I might bring this up on the channel, I wonder if it's because maybe we're not equipped to handle what we would do if we don't kill the bad guy, the evil thing. Like, is it a combination of we really don't have rules for that, or is it players' desire to want to succeed? And if you kill the thing in a game, you've solved the problem, right? It may not be the best decision, but some people feel like, well, if I kill the thing, it won't come back. It's not there. It's not a problem. If I let the prince was bitten and turns into a lycanthrope, and we return the prince that's been afflicted back to the king, and the king and queen are like, we'll find a cure for them. We don't want this person to die. And the players are like, well, aren't we just letting a problem go that's going to come back at us again? And I'm saying that a little bit sarcastically, in the sense that maybe we're not equipped to understand that although we might be creating our own problems in the future, that's actually a good thing, not a bad thing, but maybe we just don't have rules for that, or there haven't been rules either socially at the table, or rules as written in books to deal with those kind of situations. I don't know.
Well, I feel like a lot of the times players want to go towards the simplest solution, the simplest world, the thing they can mark it off their checklist, and then they don't have to worry about it again, right? And that that can be satisfying in its own way, I guess, but also kind of leads you away from story elements that could bring in drama and history later. But then I find that a lot of players actually don't like it when that happens, and they kind of tend to move away from like classic dramatic story points and move towards the kind of simple, clear-cut solution. And I think it just takes effort to move away from that.
I think it's maybe people coming from more video game, you or other games, it's like even some board games, you have to win, and if you don't vanquish the evil, you're not winning, or vanquishing your foe. I I'm always making a weird character. Like I'm playing in it's a modified Curse of Strahd campaign. We're just calling it Worlds of Darkness and stuff. And one of the other PCs and I, we created. We're not biological, but we are brothers in by choice. We're both playing the Blood Hunters. He's playing Order of the Lycan, so and I'm playing an Ghost Slayer. So our history is he turned into a werewolf and killed me. And what happened is I ended up in the Shadowfell with the Raven Queen, and so I learned how to. She sent me back because my purpose was not over. My purpose in life was I hadn't fulfilled it, and it came back with the knowledge to temper his curse, and we formed. We became blood brothers, literally blood, and so he has control over his curse, and then while we're playing, I ended up deck of many things. I turned into something that I had to. I can't remember the specifics again, but he had to kill me so I can come back. So I was killed again, resurrected, but then I rolled randomly, ended up being half elf. So we modified the half elf, and I became half. My mind just went blank. The ones from the Shadowfell. Oh boy.
I don't remember their name.
Oh.
Yes, they are like they're almost like a shadow elf type of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm half that elf because I figure that works really well. So I come back paler than I was before, and it was a resurrection or revivify, I think was cast, and I became a half
Shatter
elf,
Kai, right?
a half Shatter Kai, yes.
Shatter Kai.
And it just fit into the story again. So my characters died twice, once in backstory and once in the thing, and it's like, and we're not letting he's a werewolf, but we worked it into the story where he was an actual werewolf and things like that. And it's like, well, normally werewolves are evil, so we worked that into the story, but we're working around his curse like that to control it. So my point is that there's so much that you can do to break. I don't like using the word rules. Break the stereotypes and even the mechanics to create a great and interesting story there.
I guess maybe I don't know. It's weird how creative it takes for us to be in the role-playing community, and then there are players that like you were saying there, Evan, where they want the simplest thing possible, and it's I suppose this is a little bit of like gatekeeping from me, but I find that if you want the simplicity of it, there are plenty of other avenues to take with that. And I get there are some people who maybe you had a hard day of work, you just want to go kill things, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that, but I think you could just get much deeper stories and just a little more complicated. And I mean complicated in the truest sense of complications, not necessarily losing the game, like you said, but it just becomes a complication. Hell, we know that even death is not the end of the gaming session, right? It's just another step to go ahead and tell a different story if we want to, or sure, there might be a setback, but some people like to be the underdog and try to overcome their setbacks or whatnot. And maybe we as a community are not just embracing the, maybe it's a good thing to not kill the orc babies and orc pregnant ladies, even though we all know that may come back to bite us in the ass, because the cool thing is it might come back to bite us in the ass, right? But maybe not. Maybe they become, maybe the heroes are surrounded, and then this young orc teenager steps forward and is like, no, this person saved my life, and that becomes a great story element or something. And then now the paladin gets to train this young orc to take his place as a squire or something, and now you've got a story. Whereas before it was just, well, kill the orc babies and we're done because we want to solve the problem, right?
Well, and yeah, maybe that's on DMs for not providing enough positive results for actions, kind of thing.
I mean,
I think it varies on the group. I think when I first started, some of the groups I was in were more min-max, but don't share your ideas. So it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me make a character? No. So they were vastly superior to me. And it's like, it was more like, got to win the game. And it's like every man for himself, every person for himself. It's like, that's how I started. And that's how I learned a lot. Like I had some groups that were good into the story and stuff, but I think I don't fault people if that's what they want to play. Great. I've moved on from that. I prefer, and even though I don't know if min-maxing is exactly what I do. I still have that tendencies, but I like to maximize certain parts of my character. But that's why I like 5th edition. This character has 2 8s in his stats, but I did that to up his intelligence, but I figure that's his strength. But that's why I like 5th. It's like you do something well in one area, you're going to suffer in the other. So it sort of balances out. And I actually prefer that. So I optimize my characters, but I like the penalties in that. Like some people say, oh, I don't want negatives. Okay, well, that's good for you. And I have to go, but one thing I want to say is this is reminding me of the webcomic called Goblins, where the main characters are goblins. There are some humans as well, but now one of the humans is actually joined with the goblins to, even though at the very beginning he believed the goblins were evil, have to kill them, and he killed a lot of them from their tribe. But now they're on the same team because they got common goals. And I like how that storyline has progressed from the beginning to the present. So I hope I didn't spoil anything anyone has started reading it, but it's still very interesting storyline and some of the character arcs. So I'd like to thank you guys again. This has been a great session. I like this little chat we did afterwards. It's more than just how did the session go and stuff. We're exploring some topics and stuff. It's been great. So thanks.
No problem. Yeah, I thought we would do that as the sessions went on, because I'm like, well, why don't we talk about this off camera? We put this into the show at the end, and I think it's just maybe somebody even has something that's been bugging them or whatever, or wanted to bring it up, even if it really doesn't have anything to do with that session, and just keep the conversation going. And then maybe other people will go, oh man, I thought about that same thing. And so maybe they can learn from it as well, or bring up their conversation with their friends.
Speaking of coming up with the same things, before Dragongrin came out, the campaign I was going to develop to market, I split the races into 2 parts. I had 4 races: human, elf, dwarf, and what I called hob, which was orc gnome type tenants. It was a combination, but there were 2 parts. So you could take human and human, or you take human and elf, or hob and dwarf and stuff. And similar in base mechanics to this, but it was a little more like if you take human and human, you were human. If you take elf and elf, it was very elf-like. Well, at least which elf that I picked. And I was going to develop that because in 3rd edition, I used to run classless things, so it was all point-based. And I was thinking of developing something like this, a little more options. So dwarf, but you had a whole range of stuff. It'd be a dwarf, and now Tim Kearney beat me to it.
Yeah, I know. I know,
So,
but you do know it's because I've discovered this when writing and such. Like, yeah, there will be people that'll beat you to the finish line, but sometimes it actually works to just give them the handshake and just go along with it. I talk to them, and because I'm interested in making my own setting, and I love the format that they used. And I spoke to them, and they were just like, "Dude, if you go ahead and do it, and you need to, what is it? Mimicry is the greatest form of flattery, kind of thing." He's like, "Yeah, go ahead and go for it." I would always tell somebody if I'm going to steal something from them that, "Hey, listen, this is what I'm doing," and sometimes just being upfront with it and going, I don't see a better way of doing this. I've got to take your idea and reskin it or reframe it for my own. And I think more often than not, especially if you give those people credit at a minimum, I don't think they'll have a problem with it. So
Actually, one of the mechanics I'm using for my Lightless World setting, Connor Davies from Dice on Ice, his Cryfoth setting has like an exhaustion type of mechanic that he modifies.
Yeah.
Using that, and currently the Astrofade from Harbinger by Matt Click, I've created. I was speaking with Connor, and we came up with this idea, and I mashed the two together for a mechanic for my setting. If it works out, I'm going to I'll talk to Matt about it and see if he has any ideas, if he's okay with it. It's like, because it works really well together in my setting. So, but more on that at another point when I have some more work done on it. But I'm going to say thanks, guys, again.
Hey, man. But both you guys have a great one. Everybody have a great one. And of course, next Sunday is the next game. So hope the guys see you there. And if not, we'll have other people come in and you guys can pop in as need be. So
Looking forward to it.
Everybody have a great one. Bye.
Bye.